to order. If we'll stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Then the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gibson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Linlaw.
Here.
Commissioner McGee.
Here.
Commissioner Gaetano.
Here.
Commissioner Hyatt.
Here.
Are there any agenda modifications?
Not for me. No.
Nope.
No.
Okay. We don't have any presentations this evening. Citizens' participation, non-agenda items. Who's up?
Julian Welch.
Julian Welch, 222 Cypress Avenue. How is the commission doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am here representing your museum volunteers. We are so excited, and I know all of you got an email. We're so excited to tell everyone here. We are having the grand opening ceremony on the 21st of this month for the museum. We'll also be having the ribbon cutting so that you guys can see, for anyone who doesn't know, because I know some of the people in attendance may not know, we've gotten a historic sign. We've been added to the National Register. And if you've driven by the VIA Hall, you'll see the big sign that's there that's all hidden that you can't see right now, because you have to come to this, 10 a.m. on the 21st, when we unveil the sign and we have a ribbon cutting. We hope a lot of the community can come, and we look forward to seeing the commission there. Thank you very much.
Very
Thank
nice,
you, Drew.
Joanne.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Bonds.
Neil Bonds, 295 Indian Creek Road, Indian Mountain Fish Camp. A few meetings ago, we asked for volunteers for the Volusia Growth Management Committee. I did send an email back to Drone letting him know I was interested on July the 17th, and he told me he would inform the commission that I was interested on July 17th. I haven't heard anything since, so just want to make sure y'all know that I did let him know that I was interested in it, but
It's on
Glad
the
to have you.
agenda.
Thank
It's on
you.
the meeting
It's on the
tonight.
agenda for today.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Cheryl Lawler.
My name is Cheryl Lawler. I live at 474 Cheyenne Drive, and I've been resident for nearly 5 years. I heard rumor about a gas storage facility of some sort being considered for Oak Hill, and I just wanted some clarification. I didn't see anything that I read online regarding this. So I am wondering, is that project being considered? And if so, what is the current status of that project? Where will it be located, and what benefit will it bring to our city and the community residents?
That's the first we've ever heard of it.
That's,
Okay, someone,
you read that online, that's a chaos and misinformation. There's no facts to it,
Okay.
there's no accuracy to it, it's just to
Okay.
create chaos.
okay,
It's-
so,
The information
No.
I have, it's not leaving Ormond Beach.
okay,
It's not,
They've got the problem.
okay. Okay, well, good. I just, didn't know where to look, so I thought this was the best place. for me.
Yeah, the Ormond Beach,
Get
the Ormond Beach,
accurate information.
the Ormond Beach City Commission would not provide infrastructure for the site. So the developers are gonna put in their own well and a package plant. It's not going away. They were offered $10 million to find some other place in Volusia County.
Or
So it
flat.
doesn't surprise me, the rumor mill, it's gonna be an Oak Hill. Well, no, it's not.
Okay,
You can go to the bank with that.
okay. Is it going to be large storage tanks? I'm just curious, now that we're talking about it.
Oh, it's gonna be,
It's a huge
Is it gonna
thousand
be
fuel
like
depot and
exit
terminal.
13 off of, in Elizabeth, New Jersey?
Yeah,
probably,
probably.
probably.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I spoke to Brian Rademacher, who's Economic Development in Ormond.
Can you state your
He
name for the
looked very
record, please?
I'm sorry. Mike Armand, Economic Development Director. I was talking to Brian Rademacher, who's Economic Development in Ormond, and he's kidding me. He says, "Can we interest you in taking this to Oak Hill?" I said, "Brian, if you ask me that again, I will take you out to my airfield and they will never find your body." You ain't coming here.
Okay.
Anyone else?
John Peterson,
John Peterson, 129 Randall. On June 10th at the meeting, which was approximately about 8 weeks ago, the board unanimously voted to install a bat on the, it's been a 2-year debate. I was wondering, is there any information as to when this bat is going to be put in? I've spent 2 or 3 times down at City Hall talking with you folks, and at Wednesday's connection, there's no answer in regards to Coleman.
yeah, we're still waiting on estimate from Coleman.
Okay, so they are a certified
Yes.
person, company to do it, okay. Second question, second first question. How long does you think it would be once they give and you maybe agree to accept their bid? Are we looking at another 4, 6, 8, 12, 16 weeks to get this accomplished? Because it's creating issues for things that I'm still trying to make decisions about for my own personal situation. And without this being implemented and installed, and as the mayor said, let's make this go away at that meeting, I'd like to make it go away, but I need to get a better time zone from this group of people of when it's gonna happen.
Well, we're waiting on a bid, so they're the only ones in the area that I can find that would even consider doing a bid.
Okay, and now my third question is, if I or anybody else in this audience or online is attached to that system today, and you have a problem with it, who is on the Rolodex for City of Hall to go down and fix that with a phone call of a problem? Is it Mead and Hunt? Are they still involved in this?
If there's a problem with the system, right now we're contacting the county.
The county
Yes.
is now responsible for repair, operation, and installation?
No, they're not doing installation.
Okay. Fourth question leads to that. If I was to buy a property that has not been developed but been piped but no VAT on it for an investment, to put a rental home on, and I have to have a VAT put on there, is this the same response I'd be getting as an investment property to be able to do that from the city of Oak Hill?
We're having trouble finding people who are qualified and willing to do the work.
And
So it's going to- it's going to be
because
difficult.
Mead and Hunt is not associated with this project anymore?
Well, Mead and Hunt, they weren't the ones doing the installation. They were the engineers on the project.
And
We're-
MES was the one that was doing the installation.
Correct.
So, all right, let's back up, let's re-strategize the thought here. MES, out of Miami base, I assume is what I've been told, is not involved in doing any repair or taking the reins and fixing the problems at this point. They're not coming back to do anything in regards to this project that they were so involved in. Am I correct on that?
You're correct.
So we are now sourcing
He's not
out.
exactly correct, no.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we have our city attorney on the phone.
On the work that has been done, so if something breaks within that 1-year warranty period, we will be contacting the contractor, and we have a warranty bond for them to come out and do work.
Is this warranty bond not in effect in regards to my situation, in
No.
regards to having been told but not installed?
No. This is outside the scope of the contract, it's the city's doing it.
Okay.
And to answer your question about someone buys a vacant piece of property and they want to hook up to the system, they are solely responsible for all necessary work to hook up to the system.
So
The
we
city
have to
will not
get
be
out of
involved.
the realm of the people.
No one else will have your special privilege.
No, I'm not looking for a special privilege. I am asking a question in regards to an investor who would like to invest.
And that's what I just answered. If an investor comes in, wants to buy a vacant piece of property
I'm sorry?
that is not hooked up, they have to do all the work to develop that vacant piece of property, just like any other property in the city.
Okay. All right. You'll inform me, correct?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
that's it.
That's it? All right, let's move on to consent agenda. Commission meeting minutes, July the 22nd, 2024. Special commission meeting minutes, July 29th, 2024.
Motion to approve is written.
Second.
We have a motion and a section. Discussion? Call for the vote?
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linlaw,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatagano,
Yes.
Commissioner Hyde.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Next up, city administration reports.
Yes, sir, just wanted to advise the commission that City Hall will be used as a polling station come August 20th for the primary elections. Supervisor of elections will be coming on site on the 19th to set up their equipment. We'll have the election on the 20th, and then on the 21st, they'll be back to take their equipment, break it down and remove it from City Hall. Also wanted to mention the Nancy Cummins Park, the playground installation for that started today and hopefully should be done by the end of the week.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent.
Let's move on. City attorney. Anything? Okay, let's move on to city planner. Application for rezoning Lighthouse Cove.
Yes, sir, we have Nathan Milch from Kimley Horn who's going to be presenting on this item.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Nathan Milch with Kimley Horn. We're at 200 South Orange Avenue, Orlando, Florida, 32803. I'm here in the capacity of the city planning consultant, and I'm going to be reading the staff report and item for the Lighthouse Cove North Development, which is a proposal for a RPUD rezoning, which is a residential planned unit development rezoning. The applicant or developer, Thomas H. Arlick, is requesting a RPUD rezoning, which is approved with an overall development plan. The overall development plan consists of 2 items: a preliminary development plan, which is a conceptual site plan, as well as a written development agreement. These are approved in conjunction. The subject property consists of 2 parcels, 853100000081, and the same parcel numbers ending in an 81. The total acreage is 48.58 acres. The property is currently vacant and covered in dense trees and vegetation. It's located within the jurisdictional limits of the city of Oak Hill, and there is no formal address numbers assigned at this time. The existing future land use for the properties is medium density residential, which is MDR. The request is to rezone a portion that was originally left out of the 2003 RPUD approval into the overall RPUD and reconstitute that 2003 approval as one unified development. So if approved today, this item will approve the entire 48 acres as one consistent RPUD. So the original approval was in 2003 via ordinance 2003-08, and the 5.5 acre portion that was added into the residential plan development today is currently zoned R1, low density residential single family. In addition, just wanted to note that those parcels listed, it is a portion of the frontage parcel. So there's 300 feet of property frontage along US 1 that's currently zoned B1 general business, and that has a commercial feature land use, and that's not included in this request. Under the existing Oak Hill comprehensive plan, the medium density residential allows for no more than 4 dwelling units per acre unless there is a provision of central utilities and the ability to connect. When there is the provision of central utilities for water and sewer, which Volusia County Water Utility Service Group has indicated that there is, technically speaking, you're allowed to propose up to 10 dwelling units per acre. So although the maximum 10 dwelling units per acre is permissible here, as stated in the comprehensive plan, the applicant has proposed to cap the development program at 4.4 dwelling units per acre, or 212 single-family units. I would add that the original RPUD back in 2003 did get approved with that number of units as well and that density. So the request today is they're adding in the additional 5.5 acres, but not requesting an increase in density from what was already approved. Let's see, at the time of final development plan submittal, which is the next step after this, which will be back before the board, the applicant will be required to show compliance with this approval, and then they will also be required to submit a tree survey, landscape plans, conceptual schematics of water, sewer, and private utilities. And then that will get re-reviewed by the technical review committee, as well as review by applicable state and local agencies, FDOT, since the property is located off of a state road. Any of the access points or improvements will be required to be reviewed and approved by FDOT, as well as the Water Management District and Volusia County. Based on the review by city staff and the technical review committee, we found that the proposed preliminary development plan is consistent with code section 24-199 preliminary development plan and the submittal requirements herein, and is in compliance with the overall land development code, which includes the supplemental information that the applicant had provided. There's one outstanding item that the city is waiting to receive from the applicant, and that is a signed and sealed topographic and boundary survey. It has been noted that the applicant has requested that. The City of Oak Hill Planning and Land Development Regulation Commission motion, they recommended unanimous approval and passed the item on June 20th, 2024. The recommended options for the City Commission today are to approve the RPUD rezoning and overall development plan, approve the RPUD rezoning and overall development plan with modifications, or to deny the RPUD rezoning and overall development plan based on the findings that the determination did not meet the requirements or regulations. We are recommending option B, which is to approve the RPUD rezoning and overall development plan with the condition that the applicant provide a signed and sealed boundary and topographic survey. That concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any additional questions, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions.
Yeah, got a couple questions. All right, and on the original, what they submitted in 2003, there's a little bit of difference between the minimum lot size, right? That it was like 6,000 square feet, right, with 60-foot widths. Now, what we've got in there now is 40 to 50, vary with a 4,400 something square feet is, and I'm not objecting, there's a difference. Is that a problem in any way? The boundaries are the same as far as the side, the back, the front, but the lot sizes are slightly different here.
Yeah, I would say as the city planning consultant that we don't see any issues with the lot widths being
Yeah,
slightly
the number of
smaller.
lots is the same as what was applied for back then.
Sir, it's likely based on the market, but I would let the applicant speak to their specific reasoning for that.
And just another part of that question when I'm reading through that, all right, and this is what was submitted back in 2003, but it said side yards of 0 to 10 feet. I don't know how you can have a side yard of 0.
It's usually for a townhouse or something,
Oh,
some attached
okay,
product.
okay. That got my attention, okay. Okay.
Did you want to clarify that? Sure.
Mayor, just saying that this is quasi judicial hearing, so you need to ask for ex parte communication disclosure at some point.
Yes, sir. Fix and do. Any ex parte communication with any of the individuals involved?
Nope, not for
No.
me.
No. No from all commissioners.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor. My name is Tom Warlick. I reside at 651 Riverside Landing Drive, Hill, Florida. I've been the proud developer of Lighthouse Cove for 20-something years. It's been a struggle for 20-something years. Been a slow go for 20-something years. 20-something years ago, we requested that part of the property that we're talking about now be rezoned to RPUD, and that was granted. And at the time, the property on the river had also been rezoned RPUD, and the homes up on the river are fairly substantial, expensive, 3-story homes. 20-something years ago, we thought maybe if that development was successful, then we thought it would be, we'd bring that on down and make the whole thing very similar. So originally, when we rezoned it, asked for it to be rezoned, we were anticipating the same type of development occurring, which was more bigger houses closer to the road, not as big of side setbacks. That's all changed after 20 years. The development agreement, things not only were different 20-something years ago, things were different with the city of Oak Hill 20-something years ago. The development agreement never was even executed or signed. So after 20 years, things have changed, and we're doing normal setbacks, front, back, rear, side, everywhere on the new development plan. None of the 0, 10 type of thing. So that's all changed. And I'd like to kind of go through my presentation, hit some of the other things that we need to talk about and discuss today. Like I said, I've been developing Lighthouse Cove for 20-something years. Very proud of what we're trying to do over there. We're trying to develop a community that I can be proud of, my team can be proud of, that the residents can be proud of, and the city of Oak Hill can be proud of. And I think we've done that, that we have a great development in Oak Hill. I've talked with a lot of tract builders over the years that want to buy a piece of this or a piece of that. Turn them all down because I'm not a big tract home type person. I don't want somebody in here that's going to build 6,000, 3,000 homes a year. I want somebody in here that takes a little pride in what they're doing. I also live here. I drive through Oak Hill, and I drive through Lighthouse Cove to get to my house every day. That's how I want to develop it properly. With regard to this property is not part of Lighthouse Cove. I use Lighthouse Cove North, but it just seemed to be a simple, easy way of going at it at the time. It never was part of Lighthouse Cove. We bought the property about the same time that we got involved in the development of Lighthouse Cove. It's not a part of it, never has been. There'll be no connecting streets, no water or sewer obtained from anything in Lighthouse Cove, no entry through Lighthouse Cove. The entry would be off of US 1 as set forth in the preliminary plan. The closest house in Lighthouse Cove right now is probably 600 or 700 feet away from the very corner of this little 5-acre piece. And the entry is going to be at least 2,000 feet up the highway along the north end of the city limits of Oak Hill. So it's not anything to do really with Lighthouse Cove. And if you look at your packet, I think you have a packet so we know a little better what we're talking about. We have a site plan there, which shows this is simple one. Here shows the site plan of where the property is. This is US 1, the commercial zone property, the parcel, the big part of the two parcels that were zoned RPUD, and a little 5-acre parcel here. All these streets are actually platted streets in Lighthouse Cove. There's no pavement, there's no water, there's no sewer, there's no power, there's no anything there. There's a few pine trees that have sprung up. And it's been that way since 1982. And it's probably going to be another 10, 15, 20 years before it's ever developed, as far as I can tell. You know, the development I'm doing up on the river, a lot of, we have the houses on the river, some of them, a couple across the road. The rest of that hasn't gone very far, so this is why we're requesting that this be rezoned RPUD and to change the development standards. As you know, the RPUD zoning is a planned unit development, but there are no development standards for it like there are for MH3 or 2 or R1, those sort of things. So the development agreement sets forth those items. So that gives you an idea of exactly where the property is located. And after that report from your planner, I'm not sure I need to go too far, but I just want to be sure I don't leave anything uncovered, and to make sure that you understand that I've done everything humanly possible to follow the necessary steps. First one being is that to file an application for an amendment to the rezoning, you have to get a form from the Development Regulations Administrator, and that I did. Also pursuant to section 24462, a preliminary and pre-application meeting is required to be held, and that was done on March the 26th, 2024. And Jerome Adams was there, Dennis Fisher, Aaron Anderson at the time, and Scott Simpson were at that meeting, the pre-application meeting. Prior to that meeting, I sent out to everybody a detailed explanation of why we needed to do what we were trying to do, and we had that meeting. After that, your code also goes on to say as an application for rezoning to RPUD, together with an overall development plan, and such application fees shall be submitted to the Development Regulations Administrator. Also did that. We've prepared an overall development plan, which consists of a preliminary plan and a developer's agreement. The preliminary plan has been reviewed, and all the changes by all the agencies and consultants were made to that. And the same way with the developer's agreement. The developer's agreement, by the way, is on a form, it's supposed to be on a form, general format provided to me by the city, which it was, and I copied almost word for word two ordinances that had developers' agreements in it that have been previously passed by the commission. One of those was ordinance 2021-02 and 2022.03. Almost word for word, same things. In my letter to the TLDRC, I set forth what those few amount of changes were. So I followed the exact form, almost word for word. I don't think there are any issues with that. The developer agreement now incorporates all those changes. The next section is 241012B, and it says after that, the Development Regulation Administrator shall refer a copy of that to the Planning and Land Development Regulations Commission, which was done. The meeting was held after proper notice. I also prepared a detailed letter of explanation to the members of the TLDRC, explained to them why we needed to do what we were trying to do. They held their meeting, and as stated earlier, unanimously approved the proposal that we made. After that, the City Commission is supposed to hold a public hearing, which we're here today, after due public notice, based on the recommendation of the PLDRC. And it says you're supposed to consider 8 things. That's in section 241013B1 through 8. And I'd like to go through all those briefly, if I may. Not to belabor the issue, but I want to be sure across everything and cover everything. The first one is whether it is consistent with the adopted elements of the comprehensive plan. The planner has said yes, but I just want to go over some of those issues to make it even clearer why it's appropriate to rezone this. Chapter 1, your future land use element, sets forth the established land uses in the city. And the city objective number 1.13 says that this is being enacted to encourage the use of innovative land use techniques, which is exactly what RPUD is. The subject property is designated as medium density residential, as was pointed out, and with sewer and water can have up to 10 dwelling units per acre. We're only asking for 4, which is fairly standard for almost anything. And even the RPUD allows for a 20% increase over that 4 if we didn't have the 10. So we're still within that number. And was pointed out, we haven't increased the total number from 20 years ago. It's still at the 212 figure. As far as the transportation element goes, the preliminary plan that was submitted shows that all the entries and exits from this proposed development are on US 1, nowhere near any of the roads or the entryway for Lighthouse Cove. According to your transportation element, US 1 is designated as a level of service C, which represents stable traffic flow, but the plan also also points out that it is actually a level service B currently, which represents unimpeded traffic flow operating at average travel speeds. US 1 also is the only principal arterial designated road in Oak Hill, and that chapter also finally states that consequently, it is likely that the road network in and near Oak Hill will be adequate to the year 2040 timeframe for the next comprehensive plan update. Your housing element. Goal number 1, to provide adequate and affordable housing that meets the needs and demands of current and future residents of the city. This is exactly what this RPUD zone property will accomplish. Chapter 4, public facility element. We will have central water and sewer, just like Lighthouse Cove, as set forth in paragraph G of your development agreement, which you have a copy of. The sewer and water lines are available at US 1 out in front of the property, which incidentally were brought down by the developer Lighthouse Cove at no cost to the city. So they're there and available. Chapter 5, coastal management element. There's no coastal or riverfront property involved, and except for a little existing ditch that goes through the property, no part of the property is in a critical area of concern from storm surge or sea level rise. And according to the recent FEMA map, no part of the property is in a floodplain zone. Chapter 6, conservation element. It's not in a conservation area according to that plan, nor in a wetland area, and is required by section 24462H. 60% of this development will be open space. Moving on to B2 of section 24103. Its impact upon the environment or natural resources. This zoning in and of itself will not have any impact on the natural resources or the environment. Those impacts will be addressed, as said earlier, during the subdivision planning stage. We're only asking for a rezoning to RPUD. And as stated earlier, this is a medium density, single family residential development. Your B3 says its impact upon the economy and any affected area. Again, the rezoning in and of itself doesn't do anything to the economy. If any of that will come up during the subdivision plan stage. If anything, the impact will do nothing more than pump money into the community and increase the tax revenues. All that will be positive. B4, its impact on any existing governmental services. As stated earlier, the project will have central water and sewer. It'll be paid for solid waste collection off the tax bill. And it will exit on US 1 north of Oak Hill City Court. B5, any change in circumstances or condition affecting the area. As I said earlier, 20 years have passed since the 2 master parcels were all zoned RPUD except for this little RPUD, except for this little 5-acre piece. And I think there was some question 20-something years ago by the planner being concerned about the ditch, how you want to get across the ditch, and that sort of thing. So it was left out. B6 is an important one. It says any mistake in the original classification. And I think this is important. This 5.5 acre parcel should have been zoned RPUD in 2002, 2 or 3. And if you read the ordinance carefully, you'll note that the rezoning includes both parcels totally, without leaving off the 5-acre piece. Don't ask me how that happened. But that's the way it's worded, that's the way it was signed, and if you have it read properly, that's what it says. It's all zoned. Also, your zoning map. If you look at your zoning map, This is the parcel we're talking about. This is Lighthouse Cove. This is the parcel, the two parcel, master parcels. The little piece we're talking about is right here. And according to zoning maps, it's already zoned RPUD. The map prior to that wasn't right either because it had it at R1, and in 2002, all those two master parcels were rezoned from R1 to MH3. So it was actually MH3 and from going from MH3 to RPUD. So this, what I'm really doing today, for hopefully y'all will do with your vote, just to kind of clear up that confusion and issue that has been around 20 years. I'm almost through. B7, its effect upon the use or value of any affected area. As I said, the future land use map shows its medium density, and the only development close is Lighthouse Cove. The streets that are close to it are not even improved. The closest house to this property that's being rezoned is like 600 feet or so away, and there's nothing in between. So the use and value of the residential property does not change at all. It'll still be single-family residential. Finally, B8, its impact upon the public health, welfare, safety, and morals. Nothing about this single-family residential use will have any negative impact on any of that. We're just going from one single-family residential rezoned property to another single-family residential property. With that, I don't think I need to read any of the other parts of the code that I was going to go into, except they do state that development review process should be efficient in terms of time and expense. And I've been working on this thing since submitted information before the meeting back in March, and incurred a lot of expense, which so far I've paid for everything that I've been billed for, and whatever else we get bills for, we'll pay for that. We'll also pay for that. But lastly, the regulations do also provide that all provisions shall be liberally construed in favor of the objectives and purposes of the city set forth in all the documentation. So everybody else has approved this. You heard your planner. Volusia County Utilities has approved it. Fire Department's approved it. Engineer Dean Hunt approved it. PLDRC approved it, and I respectfully request that you approve it on this first reading so we can submit it. And move on down to Thank you very much for your time. I hope it didn't bore you too much.
Good presentation.
Tom, I have a question. Is it still going to be a 55 plus?
Excuse me.
Ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me clarify that. It will not be a 55 plus community. It will not be a 55
Oh,
plus
really?
community. Obviously, being a 55 plus community has its benefits. It also has its disadvantages. You're limiting your possible number of buyers to a very limited number of people. So no, this will not be a 55.
If anybody wishes to speak, you have to fill out a form and come up to the podium, state your name. This way, there's a permanent record, and when we get the minutes done, we know who asked questions and who didn't. I realize sometimes it's a pain, but that's the procedure. I didn't mean to jump on you.
I have a question on K, I guess maybe Scott might have to answer this one. It says all streets within the RPUD shall be 24 feet in width and located with a 50-foot right-of-way and so on and so forth. But then it says all streets shall be dedicated to the city of Oak Hill upon completion and construction and inspection for compliance. So does that mean that those will be city streets now, not like Lighthouse Cove is a private roadway?
Yes, the way it's worded, it will be dedicated public streets, public right-of-ways.
Okay, that was my only question.
You know, the streets in Lighthouse Cove are dedicated, they're dedicated to the public, but when you put up a gate, the maintenance of it is not on the city
Right.
anymore. But these will be, my understanding, these will not be gated, they will not be private streets, they will
Okay.
be city streets.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody?
I make a motion that we
Excuse me, sir, we have
accept.
some public comment.
What's that?
We do have some public.
Oh, I thought you had to have the motion on that first. Okay.
Public comment?
Drew Ann Welch.
Guys, I am standing here asking you not just to pump the brakes. I'm asking you to stand on the brakes and wait. Currently, our city has problems with infrastructure, and we're all well aware of it. We know we have problems with our infrastructure within City Hall. We don't have enough employees in streets and roads. We don't have our own planners. We don't have our own developers. The list goes on. Secondly, we have problems with the schools. We get more homes. Out of all these homes we've approved, has anyone sat down and said, where are we going to send any of these kids to school? Are we expecting Edgewater to do this? Has there been any kind of a study? And here we are again, looking at voting for more people. Those weren't your only two problems, though. Let's talk about the stormwater issues. Let's talk about the fact that we have not fixed the stormwater issues we have. And every time you develop, every time you dig, most of you know this, you dig something in your yard, it changes the topography, which changes the way the water flows, which can then change everything around you. So, we're looking at things like that. Lastly, we're looking at traffic in the sides of the roads. It's been pointed out not only in this meeting, but in your newsletter, that there's a problem with our roads. We have work we need to be doing. I'm so tired of hearing, we need these subdivisions because we need the revenue. What we need is to figure out how to use the revenue we have to fix everything before, within the next 5 years, we double our population with the existing developments that have been approved by the commission. I ask you to consider this. Let's just stop. We've already got so many coming in, it's out of control. We need to look at these issues, fix the problems we have as they begin to come in and develop, and then let's come back around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Shira?
You need to,
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I need to start my name is, for the record, is Janet Shira, 148 William Street, Edgewater. I'd like to start my comments by asking a question. I heard a lot of things presented, but one thing I didn't hear talked about was the 5 acres that's being taken away from this PUD. Is that in fact the case, that there is 5 acres worth of property that's in the PUD right now as we speak that will be being taken out of the new PUD?
That's not what I read, is that all of that, those 2 lots are going to be of the RPUD. The original one back in 2003 didn't include that 5.5 acres.
Well, if you look
This
at-
one includes both, in both lots.
If you look at what you're voting on tonight, the proposed developers agreement, paragraph S, the requested rezoning does not increase the residential units per acre or the maximum number of lots, and only swaps one residentially zoned RPUD parcel of approximately 5 acres for a residentially zoned MH3 parcel of approximately 5 acres. So that the reconstituted RPUD covers this new area. So again, my question is there 5 acres that is being proposed to be taken out of this. And I do have other comments, but that's a question that nobody has answered so far.
Mr. Warlick?
Well, that does bring up another thing that was complicated back in 2002 and 2003. If you look at your packet again, you can see, when this RPUD was approved, when this was rezoned RPUD, someone suggested that instead of rezoning this RPUD, that you rezone this RPUD, which shouldn't have been rezoned RPUD. Really wasn't even the same ownership. My initial proposal back in March was rezone this to RPUD and rezone this RPUD back to MH3. It was suggested to me at that time, do this first and then do that. That petition has already been prepared. So this piece, which really should go back to Lighthouse Code, will be rezoned MH3 from RPUD.
So that brings up a very important point, because by doing this tonight, if you approve this, you are cutting out this 5 acres that's in the current one right now. You're cutting it out. He's saying eventually they're gonna come in and rezone that from RPUD to MH3. But tonight.
You're talking two different parcels.
No.
Yes, you are. He
No.
just pointed that out to you.
There is a 5 acre part of this current PUD that they want to take out.
No.
It says, okay, let me read from Lighthouse Cove's letter of March 22 to Jerome Adams. I propose that these issues be addressed as follows. Number 1, file applications to rezone parcel A back to MH3 and rezone the triangular admitted part to PUD. So he's saying that's what he wants to do. He wants to change that, the 5 acre piece that's currently in the PUD. He wants to take that out and put it back to MH3. Is that not true? It's a simple yes or no. It's a simple yes or no. Is there not a 5 acre piece that's being taken out of the PUD?
It's not, can I answer your question without you making me say yes or no? I mean, it's pretty easy to answer. If you read the proposed ordinance, it clearly says, approving the overall development plan, which includes not only the 5.5 acre subject to this amendment, but also that portion of parcel blah, 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 8.0 and parcels in 8.1 that were previously rezoned RPUD by ordinance 200308. And if you read in the developer's agreement, it clearly says the same thing twice. Your planner wanted me to put it here because you weren't sure if everybody read all the way to the end, and it would make it clearer here. All we're doing is as follows. This whole piece right here will be RPUD except for the first front 300 feet, which will still be B1. Little pieces here was zoned, was not rezoned. Instead, they had this one zoned. But the developer's agreement only applies to these 2 parcels, not to that. So yes, it has been taken out. It has, I don't know how to answer the question, but it's not in the developer's agreement. It's not set forth in the preliminary plan for what's being presented tonight.
So basically, if you approve this, you will have a little 5 acre piece of property that's zoned PUD.
The ordinance reads that the 8531000080 and same thing 081, right, with that 5 acres in there are going to be zoned RPUD. That's what the ordinance at said states.
No,
Yes, it does.
no. It does not.
You and I read English differently.
Well, I'm telling you, this will cause you to have a 5-acre PUD sitting on the side waiting to be rezoned back to MH3 as paragraph S says, and as his letter of March 22, 2024 states to Jerome Adams. That is not something that you can do because the minimum size of any PUD has to be 20 acres. So you can't leave this 5-acre PUD to the side to deal with later. And that's one issue with
I
this.
have a question. You're saying that A and B is RPUD. Now he wants to add 5 acres to that. And at a later date, remove A, which isn't 5 acres, to another designation,
MH3.
MH3.
I'm not saying that, it's saying that in the proposed
Well,
development.
you're presenting that,
Yeah,
and I'm giving you extra time so that we can hear from you.
well, it's an important,
But, wait a minute. If we approve this 5 acres that was supposedly supposed to be part of it, never was, and there's mixed opinions on whether it's included or it's not included. If it's approved, then that whole section is RPUD, including the one that you're saying he plans on changing. If he never changes it, it's all RPUD, right?
but it's not this PUD, because the description in the ordinance title leaves that 5-acre parcel out. It's including this new 5.5 acre parcel, but it leaves the 5 acres out. So it's just sitting outside.
Wait a minute. If it hasn't been approved to go back to MH3, then it's still part.
But it's not part of this new ordinance. This ordinance gives a legal description of what the new PUD will be, and it leaves that 5 acres out.
So, change it. Let's amend the ordinance. Anything else? I understand what you're saying, but to me, it's so much simpler if it's already part of the RPUD, but if that ordinance says it's excluded,
It does. And the other thing that's important to note is, regardless of whether or not the same people own that commercial frontage, you have to have an access agreement as part of this PUD, because they're saying, basically, on this PUD plan, that there are access points through property that's not part of this PUD. This PUD doesn't go up all the way up to US 1. They're putting drives through commercial property. And that needs to be something fleshed out in this developer's agreement, in case he sells that commercial frontage or whatever. So there's a lot of other things that I know I've gone over my 3 minutes, but this is in no way, shape, or form ready to be approved.
If I may respond, every way and shape this thing is ready to be approved. We're basically clarifying some problems that were created 20 years ago. The developer's agreement, to make it clear, the development agreement to develop the property, we're only talking about developing these 2 parcels. And I was requested by staff to do that as a separate issue, as opposed to bringing it up and creating a complication here. Separate issue. she's saying that can't be RPUD, well, it's zoned RPUD. This code only says to be zoned RPUD, you have to be 20 acres or more. Doesn't say anything about what could stay RPUD. I have stated that my plan is to make that back to MH3 because that's what this is supposed to be, MH3. It was not really part of Lighthouse Cove originally. It was going to be, if my memory serves me, it's before my time, it was going to be the water treatment plant for Lighthouse Cove or for the county if they ever used it. They never did use it. And 30 years ago, there was a reverter clause and it reverted back to Lighthouse Cove development. So it's really a separate parcel down there that needs to be dealt with separately. It has nothing to do with what we're trying to correct here by adding B to A so that both of these parcels under the same ownership are being developed pursuant to the developer's agreement and the preliminary plan has been submitted. Also, there's no traffic issues. If there are any traffic issues, they'll be addressed during the subdivision process. They have to get some kind of approval from the state to enter and exit from US 1. That'll be part of the planning process. It's not something we can come in here and say, oh, we've already done that. All we're really doing is basically rezoning. In order to do that, we have to come up with some kind of development standards, which is what we're doing. And the issue about everything in the city not being up to snuff, anything we add will be roads, sewer, power, water, everything will be paid for by the developer. Not one penny will be paid for by the city. It's just like the city didn't pay one penny for me to bring water and sewer down to Lighthouse Cove where it is today. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If you present.
Please.
Sure. Nathan Milch, Finley Horn for the record. Just to address the two items that were brought up. So that 5.5 acre piece, there were discrepancies as we did go back through the files as the zoning maps have been updated over the years. So the reason that we requested Mr. Warlick to provide the legal description for the 5.85 acres and the rest of the RPUD that was established was so that we could get rid of those moving forward, to reestablish the entire RPUD as one unified development and not have folks in the future that are going to be researching this per se, say this doesn't move forward at the time, that they have to go back and piecemeal multiple ordinances together. And Mr. Warlick complied with that, and this is why we're restating the entire RPUD. In terms of access, yes, the frontage along US 1 is zoned something different, but access agreements through other parcels are allowed. They're all currently under one unified ownership, even though they have different zonings. That's fine. If there is access in the future, those access agreements are going to be determined at the next step and required under review. In the event that, say, Mr. Warlick tried to do a lot split to just separate those portions from the RPUD, even at that time it would be reviewed and necessary access agreements would be required because all lots in order to move forward for development need access. So.
What about the 5 acre parcel?
So are you talking about the 5 acre parcel of the MH3 down here?
5 acre parcel that'll be left out of this.
I believe you might be confused. I'm not sure. I'm not understanding what you're specifically talking about.
Paragraph S. Paragraph S.
Okay, so the exhibit that shows this slice down here, that was 5 acres, I believe that was something that was included in Mr. Warlick's original application, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we had him clarify, so that was something that I think was left in the development agreement, so I would recommend that the commission strike that item if Mr. Warlick is fine with that, because the original exhibit that was submitted,
Paragraph S, proposed developers.
so this original exhibit that she's mentioning, I think this is the 5 acres, is that correct? So originally, this, on the original submittal and as stated in that letter to Jerome, this parcel had a C on it, and it was mentioned that the idea was going to be just a swap. But through subsequent reviews with staff and with Mead and Hunt and all the other reviewers, we determined that request made things more confusing. So we asked Mr. Warlick to remove that item. And I believe that that's something that got left over in the development agreement. Does that sound?
Yeah, it's not,
It's not included in this request, any of the legal descriptions or anything.
agreement of the preliminary plan.
So they can strike S.
F of what?
S, as in Sam, on your developer's agreement.
So, yeah, I recommend that we strike that to avoid any confusion because it's
I don't know what
sufficient.
you're talking about, yeah.
Yes.
He said S, Sierra.
S is in Sam.
So that's talking about the original swap that you wanted to do. And
Well,
then
all I'm saying is that in reality, we're not actually swapping, but we're, in simplistic terms, I thought we were actually swapping 5.5 acres here for 5.5 acres there. If we need to strike that, it's fine. It doesn't really, I was just trying to, I thought I was just clarifying things instead of confusing things.
And I agree with that.
That's fine if you strike it, you know.
And I mean, I think it would be good to get clarification from the city attorney, just to ensure that there's no legality with that item S. But I agree that it was just supposed to be a clarification item, and it's not included in the legal descriptions or the actual approval.
Thank you.
City attorney, comments?
I wasn't involved in this part of the review, so this is the first I'm hearing about this swapping part. But if the planner's good deleting something, if that already eliminates some confusion, what I kind of read that, when I read S, what that says to me is we're changing something that's zone MH3, we're changing the zoning to a residential zone RPUD as opposed to MH3. I didn't know we were talking about two separate 5-acre pieces of parcels, property when I read it. But you can go ahead and you can delete it if the planner thinks it's not necessary. And it sounds like it was inserted initially because of an initial request that has been changed.
So it's okay if Mr. Warlick scratches item S?
Yes, we can do that between first and second reading.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Jeff?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Hogan. I live at 407 Sioux Boulevard. Tom, you already answered the first question about it's not going to be 55 and over. Is there going to be a barrier or a fence separating this from Lighthouse Code because it's 55 and over?
I don't have information or even thought about a fence between the two, 55 and over and a non-55 and older community. The preliminary plan does show at least part of the water retention area on the Lighthouse Cove side and a 25-foot setback on the Lighthouse Cove side, and it totals like 160-something feet from Lighthouse Cove. If that is something that's necessary or required or should be done, that would again be something that would be brought up during the subdivision planning stage. Certainly not something that would normally go into a developer's agreement, which, as I said earlier, only the purpose of the developer's agreement is set forth some kind of development standards for RPUD, because there's nothing there that says simple things like setbacks, front, rear, side, how many square feet the house has to be, and that's how tall it can be, that sort of thing. That's what is supposed to be in the plan, to give you some development standards, not a total subdivision plan. We're not looking at a preliminary subdivision plan. That would come up then if that is something that would be required.
Well, you're calling it Lighthouse Code North. It's going to be a non-55, which means there's going to be kids, which will wander in, just like they wander in from the south side of the property. Now, that goes, you know, you put a fence around Riverside Landing when you walk into your office, and you have that nice big picture on, Riverside Landing is part of Lighthouse Code. I'm just asking, you know, they destroyed the fence at the south dock. Still hasn't been repaired for 3 years. Put a Band-Aid on it, but that's about it.
Well, yeah. I sometimes wish there was a fence between Lighthouse Cove and
Canal Road.
But it doesn't, I'm not sure it serves a purpose. If they want to come through it, they come through it. But in any event, I think that's something that would be addressed during the subdivision planning stage, not something that you can address during the developer's agreement. We're basically only saying we want this little 5-acre piece zoned exactly like the zoning map says it ought to be, which is RPUD.
Well, it's nothing for them to come over into the development. I know they need a key to get into the fence or get into our clubhouse, but the whole problem is we have the problem from the outside, and it should be put in for the developer that he has to put a fence up to separate the two identities. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next.
John Taylor?
My name's John Taylor. I live at 240 Lagoon in Oak Hill. I had a couple of questions. It wasn't clear to me, is property A and B are zoned PUD now, and you're just asking to do that little 5-acre corner and take it from MH3, I believe it is, to RPUD? My question is, I wasn't clear if these two are already.
Those two are already RPUD.
Okay. All right, so what I heard was that the amount of homes was not to increase, but I also heard that the lot size is decreasing. I was just wondering why that is.
Well, like I said earlier, a lot of things have changed in 20-something years. The cost of land has gone up, the cost of building has gone up to the extent that it's very, very almost impossible to develop anywhere near a reasonably priced home on 60 and 70-foot lots anymore. And most homes these days are being built on 40 and 50-foot lots. And there'll be a mixture of 40 and 50-foot lots in this proposed development, just like it was approved in the last two developments that were rezoned to the RPUD. So it's a matter of economics, basically.
Well, that was what I wanted to clarify. I wanted you guys to be aware of that.
That's all that.
Simply that we're
The
using
number of
same-
homes stayed the same.
Right, which either is gonna increase the common areas, in my mind, or, and that may be a legality now that wasn't the same back then. So, like I said, I really haven't even looked at it, but I was unclear about whether we were trying to rezone the whole thing. So the difference between MH3 and RPUD is just a density deal as far as, okay. So what is the advantage of rezoning that little piece? Is it because you can't develop to RPUD standards if that little piece, that little parcel is MH3? Is that the reason that this is happening, that we're having this debate now? Like I say, I think a lot of people are probably unclear about that, why we're doing this. Because it almost sounds like that you're doing MH3 anyway, so what's the reason for changing? Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
I guess the biggest reason is that the two parcels we're talking about are not owned by White House Code Development. They're owned by an entirely different owner, me being one of them, the four of us. And only two of us are involved at all in White House Code in any way, shape, or form. So it's an entirely different piece of property, and anyone looking to develop it needs to be able to look at the two parcels and say, here are the development standards that apply to this piece of property, as opposed to having to look at the property and say, okay, I've got development standards for RPUD that have to be done a certain way, and I've got another piece down here that development standards are different. They've got to be done in a different way. It needs to be all the same because of the unified ownership, being able to develop it in the same way, as opposed to trying to bring two different pieces together to make it work. I hope that clarifies that. Thank you.
Next.
That's it, sir.
That's it?
I have one in there.
Mr. Dean? Please come up.
Charlie Dean, 157 East Halifax. You know, I'm looking around up here at the commission, and I see four of the commissioners that are relatively new residents, and when I'm saying that within the last 20, 25 years, Oak Hill. And I got a question, why did you move to Oak Hill? Nice, quiet little town? Am I correct?
I've been here 20 years.
Okay, but nice, quiet little town,
Oh,
where did
yeah.
you move?
Oh, yeah.
Mayor?
Be on the
Am I
water.
correct?
Fishing.
Mr. Catagano? Okay. Why do y'all want to change the demographics of this community? That's why everybody in here has moved here, is because it's a small town.
Charlie? You were here when Blue Origin came. This room was filled. Everybody in it screamed, "We want houses." we don't want a missile factory.
I'm not worried
No,
about
wait a
the
minute,
origin.
wait a minute. Yes, you are.
Okay, stop my time, please.
The thing is, if this city does not grow, hey, just listen, if it does not grow, the burden falls on the taxpayer. Let's just face it, that's where the money comes from. Everyone in here who owns property pays Oak Hill taxes.
Correct.
5.685.
Okay.
Hold on. And if you shut down everything, this city cannot continue to meet its obligations if it's 3% per year. In 5 years, that's 15%. If you don't have growth,
didn't let me
and
finish
wait a
mine.
minute, no, you started me, and now I'm going.
Have at it.
I've been at Advent Health to put urgent care in Oak Hill. Dr. Fernandez says, we're working on it. I said, what's the holdup? Not enough roofs. Plain and simple. And I don't know about anybody else in this room. The last 2 years, I've seen more doctors than I've seen in my whole daggone life. And if I had one right next door to me, I'd be tickled to death that I could go right there. And, you know, Charlie, don't get me wrong. You grew up here. Steve grew up here. You don't want anything to change.
No, wrong answer. That's the reason I said you didn't let me answer. Or let me finish my question. Why are you approving 40 and 50 and 60-foot lots?
Because
Okay.
wait a minute, I'll answer that question.
Do you want us to look like Port Orange?
Who drew up the comp plan and land use? Answer me that.
I can't tell you.
No, I know. It wasn't during your term on the commission. It was before that. Why did they put in 4 per acre? Why did they do that? That's 25% each lot. Hold on. Then here comes the state. Oh, we've got a new designation, RPUD. And in that, another 20% can be added to your land use. 4. Now, if something needs to be changed, that's what needs to be changed. Go to 4, period, no matter what the hell you build.
Now,
And I'm done.
okay. Well, the commission on RPUD, y'all can make determinations on what y'all need done and what you want done in that. You don't have to live by what the developer says. Okay? That's each one of y'all's personal choice. Y'all already approved 40-foot lots up off of Brooks Circle. You've approved 30 and 40-foot lots off of North Gaines. You've approved 30 and 40-foot lots and 50-foot lots all over this city. You're changing the basic demographics of, I know we gotta grow. I understand that, okay? But let's grow. Let's don't look like Port Orange. Let's don't look like Orlando. Let's don't look like Ormond. Let's look like Oak Hill, okay? And we can do that, but y'all are the ones that sit in the fair that's got to make that determination.
Charlie, got a question for you, all right?
Sure.
Are you unhappy with Oak Hill right now as a city?
No, I'm not.
Okay, the majority of citizens in our town right now are on quarter-acre lots, on, all right, smaller than, all right, almost all of there's a few people that have their acreage around, right? But most of the citizens are on quarter-acre or smaller lots. Go,
Okay.
you look at the property, I went up there and the last 2 days, I've been looking over the Volusia County property appraiser, the big map, and looking at all of that, all right? We have very small lots, and the houses are 12 to 1,500 square feet on them. Hey, When you and I grew up here, there were less than 500 people in Oak Hill. We've had 400% growth. I'm still happy with Oak Hill. I still love Oak Hill.
I still love Oak Hill. I'm not,
400% growth since you and I were kids.
but I don't want to see us to have a Oviedo, a Ormond, a Port Orange. Oak Hill wasn't.
I disagree with you that that's going to happen there, all right? We're adding more people just like we
The
have.
only reason it's going to happen is that y'all sitting right up here.
Well, that's what
the only reason.
That's what you're trying to do, so.
You know, that's the only reason.
Charlie,
Thank you.
Indian Harbor Estates, 50-foot lots,
Hey,
$1,200.
I don't like them.
The people who moved in are buying 2 lots.
I don't like them.
I was told yesterday.
You don't have to move there.
I was told yesterday, a 50-foot lot, $385,000. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And here's it. I'm not a developer, but how do you come in and build something, even on a 40-foot lot? Now, let's face it, it's got to be over 300 grand.
But
to
you know
build.
what? That's not my problem. That's a developer problem.
Yeah, it is, but back in, the as Jeff Bracey would say, back in the day, 50-foot lots were common in Oak Hill,
Well,
right?
I don't think so.
No, you-
That's okay.
Look at the property, look at Volusia County property appraisers in there.
I'm not,
Everywhere.
I don't. Here's the thing. If it wasn't in the rules, we wouldn't have to approve it, would we?
no.
But if a developer meets all of it, you
But
can't
still,
say
on
no.
our PUD, you can still put guidelines that you want done. This commission can.
Mr. Warwick?
Unfortunately, development does come. And legally, you cannot stop it, opposed to what some residents may think. They've been here a lot longer than I have. I've been here 20-something years, too. I've been here a long time. I like Oak Hill. I've been very careful and conscious of developing Lighthouse Cove so I can be proud of it. And I have to drive through here. I have to drive through there to get to my house. I'm not trying to destroy the place, not planning on anybody else doing that either, but, you know, the way that the law is set up in Oak Hill, I could ask for 10 units per acre. I'm down at 4.4, and in all honesty, we probably won't even be that many. 220 is the max. It probably won't be, but probably less than 200. I don't know. You won't know that until you go through the planning process of engineering and working on subdivision plans and stuff. But that is later. The best you can do is control. You can't stop it. I know there's some people in Oak Hill that would like to stop it. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. You need to control it, and that's what you're doing. And what I'm asking for is within the parameters of your guidelines, and I respectfully request that you approve my request for rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Warwick.
Thank you.
Nobody else?
No, this is for the next.
Oh, next? Oh, okay.
I wanted to ask if you knew the difference. You said that there was a cost difference between a 40-foot lot and a 60-foot lot. What is the difference?
Well, as was said, you're talking about doubling the price of the lot at least. And it's not just the price of the lot, it's the lot and the home that goes on to it.
Right, so I'm asking what the difference is. Like, so say you take a 40-footer and you compare it to a 50 and a 60. What's the pricing schedule on that?
I don't know.
I mean, you
exactly
say
what-
it, but I want to hear it, you know?
Probably, to go, to get a 60-foot lot, you're probably doubling the price from a 40
Of the lot.
at least, yeah, probably.
But the house,
You're almost
the
doubling
house would be
size
the
of
same,
lot.
or?
Huh?
But the house would be the same, or?
Well, the house is gonna be constructed, it's probably gonna be very similar if it's a 40 or 50-foot lot in reality.
So how much is
I
a
mean,
40-foot lot in there? Do you know yet, or
How
did
much
you?
of the 40-foot
I mean, you
lot's
have to
gonna-
know these numbers before you do your calculations to find out if it's going to be a profitable endeavor, right? So you must have some kind of an idea about how much a 40-foot lot's going to be selling for.
And I really don't know what a 40-foot lot would sell for in Oak Hill.
Well, you know in your own thing, it's your project.
I do know that when I started in Lighthouse Cove, we could build a house on a lot for $99,000.
But I'm asking how much the lot cost if it's 40-foot and a 50 and a 60 on your project. That's what I'm at, because you said that there was, you know, it was cumbersome to go. That's why you went to the 40, was because the 60 and the 50 cost too much.
I based it on the economics that have been relayed to me to people that are developing 40 and 50 and 60-foot lots. The cost of the lot and the land, it's got prohibitive to build houses. As I said, I started off a house and lot in Lighthouse Cove at $99,000. Now we're up on for block home close to $500,000.
And so that 99,000's for a 60-foot lot, right?
Well,
Because all your houses in Lighthouse Cove your lots are all 60,
Well,
right?
I don't, the big issue is how many homes can you get on a piece of property? With RPUD, you're required to have 60% of that property open space.
Right, but I'm
By
asking
homes.
about the prices of the
So in
lots.
order to comply with that part of it, you automatically have to have some smaller lots. You can't have 60, 70-foot lots and get anywhere near that density when you have to have 60% of your property open space.
So earlier you said that the reason why you went to I think Steve had asked initially.
I said,
And then this
based on-
gentleman got up and asked again, and now I'm asking again, and we still haven't got an answer.
I don't really know the answer to your question as far as how much more it would cost for a 50-foot lot as opposed to a 40-foot lot.
But you're saying that that's the reason why you went from a 60 to a...
Developers look at how many lots they can get basically per acre, and I don't know.
I mean, are you saying that you're doing it because you can, or what is your answer here? I don't understand your answer.
I'm trying to get this piece of property in a configuration that someone may want to buy and may want to develop. And the way it's zoned now, the only real problem is that little 5-acre piece. It could be developed, leave it where it is, and we could still do the same size lots. 40-foot, 40, 50-foot lots.
No. Not unless it's an RPUD.
In an RPUD?
Not unless it's an RPUD, because what Charlie Dean was saying about RPUDs was absolutely correct. You can't, that's a process that the city can set their own standards on
And
too.
that's what the development order agreement does. It sets forth the building.
Right, and that's a negotiation between our city and the developer or the landowner or whoever made the application, I guess the applicant.
Correct.
So what he was saying about, you know, that it is a negotiation and it's a standard that's set by this commission is absolutely correct. And I'm still jumping right back to my initial question, because you said, you stated it, I mean, I heard you, I was sitting right here, that the reason why you went from a 60-foot lot, when Steve and this gentleman over here asked you, was because it was cost prohibitive to build on a 40, on that size. And I'm asking you, how cost inhibited?
Well, you take the cost of the land and the construction cost, and you try to put those numbers together to come up with a development that will work. exactly why it's gone to 40 and 50. I don't have, my lots are all in Lighthouse Cove. It's zone MH3, and those are 60-foot lots. I don't try to sell 40 or 50-foot lots. I haven't done that.
But that's what you're trying to do now.
I'm trying to,
I mean, you're asking me to vote on something, but you're not answering a pretty straightforward question, and I'm uncomfortable with that, because you made the statement.
what I said was, based on economics, nothing that I've come up with, but other builders and developers who are building and developing the standard size lots that are being built and developed for 40 and 50, not 60 and 70. I haven't personally done that. I haven't developed any 40 or 50. I'm just trying to get this development in a condition where it could be developed. I don't know the exact difference in the cost. I just know from my experience talking to other people, and the reality of it is the cost of everything is going up. And you can't cut the cost of concrete, you can't cut the cost of lumber. It's all pretty much set. The only place you can save is on the size of the lots. And we're only asking for 212, and with 60 feet of, 60% of it being open space, you can't have 60-foot lots, don't work out. If you look at the plan that's presented, even at 40 and 50-foot lots, it only shows 180-something lots. It doesn't even show the 212. That's at 40 and 50. With the requirements of the 60% being open area, you can't have bigger lots, don't work. We're already down to 180-something.
So based on your statements that you made earlier, you said that it was already approved in 2002 as a RPUD development, and it had 200, and it had, yeah, and it had 212 units. So it must have met all the requirements, like the open space and all that, if it was approved that way. Is that right? Now you're saying that you had to do the 40s to get the open space.
I don't think. That plan was presented back in 2002.
Right?
I'm not even sure if there was a preliminary plan done to show how the lots were laid out.
Well, it would be,
Wasn't one done then.
I guess you
All I
could
know
reasonably
is
assume that the city did it correctly, right?
It was zoned, yes, it was zoned RPUD.
It had 212 homes, 60-foot lots.
It was zoned, but there was never a developer's agreement executed or signed.
The number of homes was in there somewhere because it's in the report that you submitted with the application.
It was proposed for 212
Right,
lots.
60-foot wide.
Yeah, 60-foot lots.
Yeah, because I would be a lot more comfortable with that number, and I think that a lot of the people in Lighthouse Cove would be too. So if it's not necessary to reduce the size of the lots, I'm just trying to figure out, and it's not economic, as you had said earlier, then what is it?
It's a matter of economics. The cost to pay what you have to pay for the land, you have to be able to get a certain number of lots out of it. The preliminary plan that has been drawn up and submitted using 40 and 50-foot lots and complying with the 60% open space, we were only able to put on there 180 something, not 212. So we're already having to go less than 4.4 homes per acre because of the open space requirement on the property. I don't know if you could have ever gotten 212 20 years ago. I doubt it. You can't get it today based on the preliminary plan that we submitted. It only shows 100. I mean, with 40 and 50-foot lots, and trying to show the 60% open space. It was like 182 lots. That was 182 lots total, 50, 40, and 50s. On that piece of property with the 60% open space. So you're not even getting 4.4, which is allowed according to your standards. You know, like we said, if the standards aren't right, maybe you need to change them, but, you know, I've complied with all the requirements of the code and the comprehensive plan, I feel, and I used the form that was supplied to me, and all those were 40 and 50, not 60. That's the best answer I can give.
That's it, huh?
It just doesn't work.
Don't want to answer that question.
It just doesn't. I can't answer it dollar amount, because I haven't done that work. I do know based on this, 40 and 50 foot lots, it doesn't even give you 4.4. You can't get 212 on it. According to this one plan, 182.
And then I must be missing something, or else so you are getting the 212 though, right? And so how is
A
that?
maximum of 212.
Right, but you're getting that with these lot sizes, but you had it before with the 60. That's where I'm confused, you know? I'm not getting something here.
There never was a preliminary plan, to my recollection.
But in the staff report, it had a very specific number in there of how many lots there was.
So that was based on, they allowed 4 per acre, and taken into account under RPUD, you could have a 20% bonus on top of that. So that's where the 4.4 came from. Was the bonus for RPUD zoning.
I think Mayor Janet had something that she wanted to add to that. Is that all right, or?
Do we have somebody else?
Yeah, she had somebody.
Taylor?
Yeah, that's me. I'd like to direct this directly to you guys. I'm with the first lady that spoke. Pump the brakes on this thing. It just doesn't, it just doesn't pass the smell test, okay? It just doesn't, okay? I know that it was 20 years ago that these things, that things have changed, and you've got to have more common space and all of that. My concern would be, why would you ask for 212 if you can only get 182? Obviously, he's done his homework and figured all of this stuff out ahead of time, because he just showed us.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to
Okay.
invest in it if he
Right,
didn't do
exactly,
that.
right.
That's for sure.
Exactly, and that causes me concern. And I'm not saying that this is anything nefarious or anything like that. Everybody's trying to make money. I try to make money. We all do. That's how we live. But also, what's been stated here is that we like our city the way it is. And you know what? I've been through Lighthouse Code. Doesn't bother me a bit. But you start taking 20% of the lot sizes out and start cramming more. I realize there's more for the tax roll, and I realize, you know, there's more opportunity maybe for businesses or whatever, but that's never a guarantee, and I don't think anybody really is worried about that. I'm going to vote absolutely not, and just let you know that I'm totally against this. And I think you need to do more research, and I think there's some more details that need to be hammered out. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion?
Janet was going to,
I just have a couple of comments based on what the applicant had shared. One is that he's held the land for 20 years, so it's a little hard for me to understand how now the cost of land is is what's increasing the cost, you know, why he has to shrink the lots. He's not trying to buy the land, has the land. Second point is, one of the things in the developers agreement that I didn't get time to mention was something that I know it turns out to be a huge problem when you get families, not just 55 and over, it's not such a problem, but families living on these small lots. If you look at what they had in their existing PUD, they're allowed to cover, I think, 40% of the lot with home, impervious surface, home, sheds, pool, whatever. They're asking to increase that to 60%, from 40% to 60% on the lot. And we see this now with families who are buying into these small lots. They end up having 3 or 4 sheds, and they need more impervious surface because they're trying to cram too much on opposed to a sustained lot. It's one thing for 55 and over, and it's another thing for families. And that's all.
Thank you. I've got a question, Mr. Warlick. RPUD, Homeowners Association.
Yes, sir.
It's required.
Yes.
It has it in there.
And, no, I know it does. And the homeowners, I've lived in one, will never live in another one, but they dictate how many sheds. You can't, 40-foot lot, 50-foot lot, come on. It's real simple. I can make more money putting 40-foot lots than I can 60-foot lots. It's just plain business. It's not rocket science. And this thing about the problem is that you had to go to 60% from 40%. I don't know when that changed in the comp plan or land use to open space. But that is a requirement today. And, that's, to me, that would discourage a lot of developers. Oak Hills is not ever going to be, I shouldn't say this, Edgewater has a boundary agreement that comes all the way down Cow Creek Road to West Halifax. Fortunately, I had a meeting with the county representatives. City administrator went to that meeting, and I told him, hell no, point blank, you don't come south of Ariel Road. Then they came up with, well, for talking points. Now, we're going to schedule a workshop because the county said, you turn in Oak Hill, your ISB request, Edgewater do the same thing. Edgewater thought they could do what they did with US 1, go through the back door and encircle Oak Hill. We don't want that. You don't want that. The topography of this area is probably 50 to 60% swamp. There is no developer that I can think, and I could be fooled, is going to pay $100,000 per acre to fill in wetlands. It's just not going to happen, people. The subdivisions that have been approved met all the requirements, including this plus 20% for RPUDs. That's the rules. And we're beating a dead horse with why 40-foot lots. It's money. Mr. Warlick doesn't want to say that, but I will. It's just that simple. If you figure putting in roads, 1 mile of roads, $1 million, people. We paid $9 million to run one pipe for sewer in Indian Harbor Estates. If he runs water and sewer, he's probably looking at 4 mil. So when you do the math, 40-foot lots gives him the money to make a profit. And as a property owner, every one of you has a right to do with what you want to that property. Now, my suggestion is, everybody in this room that doesn't want this to go through, ask Mr. Warlick how much he wants for that property. Then we can stop development. It's just that simple. And you can shake your head all you want, because if he walks out this room and says, forget the whole damn thing, I'm building 212 homes on the RPUD that's already been approved.
Good.
You know?
60-foot lots. We'd like that, 60-foot lots. That would be great.
What difference does that make?
20 feet.
212 homes is 212 homes.
20 feet. The lot
The
size is
same number of
bigger.
people, the same number of homes.
It's what the
They
people
don't
want.
know as much yard.
Don't yell at me, Steve.
You know, they
Jesus
have an
Christ, bud.
occupancy
I'm
limit
sitting
in
right
here.
here, you know, I can hear you. You don't have to yell, all
Apply that.
right? For Christ's
Excuse me
sake, grow
for
up,
my
will
volume.
you? Jesus Christ.
Yes, Mr. Warlick, sorry.
I appreciate your comments, but, you know, the bottom line is, I'm not asking for anything other than what is allowed based on your current code. 4.4, and as I said, and you can look at the diagram, the maximum is 212. The maximum is 4.4. According to this plan, which is submitted and is part of the development and can only be changed if this group votes for it. So the maximum is 212. If it's changed from what it is, 182, it's got to come back to you anyway. But as I said earlier, I'm not really good at laying all this stuff out. For somebody that gets paid to do this, tried to lay this out on this piece of property, and all he could come up with is 40 and 50-foot lots was 182. This property is entitled to 4 minimum. Our PUD gives you 20% more, but 4 minimum. And since it's, your future land use says it's medium density, you can go up to 10 with sewer and water. We're not even close to that. I know there's some people that don't want development, but you can control it, you can't stop it. This is a reasonable development. I wouldn't bring something that I thought was unreasonable. I've been here 20-something years. I hadn't been here as long as some of these people. I've been here a long time, trying to make something I'm proud of, the residents are proud of, and the city's proud of. And I want to continue.
Mayor, did I understand Ms. Shara correctly when she said that when we vote on this, that we're going to allow him to have coverage that's supposed to be 40, and we're allowing him to cover the lot by 60 now? Like voting,
I thought she
if
was
we voted
referring
in
to
five,
open space.
No.
No?
Lot coverage.
yeah,
Lot coverage?
permeable surfaces.
5-foot setbacks?
She said that when she got up just a minute ago. that
60% open space. It's
No,
still-
no.
No, she said they're talking the coverage on the lots is what Joe's.
I thought I heard her say that, so I was just checking to make sure that that's,
Fortunate or unfortunate, there never was any 40 or 60. That development agreement was never actually signed. The whole process was rezoned, but 20-something
He's
years
not
ago, the
understanding what I'm
development
asking
agreement
either.
never got signed. I don't think there was ever a preliminary plan. The size of the lot, you still have a 20-foot, you still got the setbacks, you can't build in it. The developer's agreement says you gotta have space for 2 cars to park on the property. It's not a one-car garage place. It also says you can't put your air conditioning equipment in the setbacks. The whole place will be controlled by declarations and covenants and restrictions, which have to be submitted to the city to be sure that everything else that could possibly be covered is covered. You know, there's subdivision development
It's
process.
F5, F5.
Is that where that is? So by approving this zoning change, I guess, we would be agreeing that he could now cover the lot by 60% as opposed to the 40%, which is allowed. You look confused.
You know, if you had a 60-foot lot and built a standard size house, the coverage of it would be less than if you had 40 or 50-foot lots.
Well, there's only a certain amount that you're allowed by our ordinances to actually cover with something that water can't flow through, is what I'm talking about right now. So a 60-foot lot, if you put a 1,200-foot home on it, probably would make that 60% cutoff, where by going to 40, now we have to give you something else to let you go to 40 because you want to put the 40-foot wide lots. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Or a smaller house.
Yeah, or a smaller house, one or the other. And they're already at 1,200, so. So, yeah, you are asking the city for something that's not allowed.
Yes.
You know, the houses probably won't be the minimum size. You know, it'd usually be probably a 3-bedroom.
So you are asking us to give you something that we don't, that's not in the ordinance. And the idea that the mayor would say that you can do whatever you want with your lot size, you know, when he misses the very essence of government when he makes a statement like that. Because that is exactly why
Are you
we're
gonna politic, or are
here.
we just finding out what the
I'm
answers are?
talking to this guy, Steve. You got a problem with that?
Yeah, I mean, you're
I'm asking.
politicking.
No, I'm not.
Hey, let's point
The
of
mayor
order.
said that.
Point of order.
Didn't you say that, Doug?
Point of order.
That you can't tell a person what they can do with their lot, with their property. You said that.
I did.
Yeah. And I'm telling you that that's dead wrong.
You have to stay within the code.
That's dead wrong. Yeah,
What?
stay within
That
the
you have to
code.
stay within
That's
the
right.
code?
So here's this
You just
question.
said dead wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
have
That
to
is
stay
why we're
within-
here, is to,
You stay within the code.
you got a little thread to hang on to there, Doug? Is that what
Yeah,
you're going with?
that's what I'm doing.
Good job. buddy.
Hanging on.
Good job.
Yep. Point of order. Let's get on to this rezoning. You're going into areas of development. This is not what we're here for. We're here for zoning.
You're approving the areas of development in your zone rezoning.
If
And
we,
once it's approved, you can't amend it. Is that what you're saying?
You're giving him the rights tonight to cover 60% of the lot instead of 40% that he has.
And during the development stage, can it be changed?
No, no.
City attorney?
Yeah, what's the question?
It's been brought up that if we approve this development, that it cannot be amended during the process of final or preliminary. Correct? Or not?
That the rezoning and development agreement cannot be amended?
Yes.
They can always be amended, coming back, depending, they'll go back through the same process that they're approved to be amended. But in terms of, you are approving a 60% lot coverage,
Yes.
so he can do coverage up to 60% without amending.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what our current code provides. I've heard people say 40%. I don't know if that's true or not. Somebody else would have to answer that question. But he can build up to 60% if this RPUD is approved. He can build up to 60% without having to do an amendment.
And
Now,
my
he could
que-
do
and my
less than
question was,
60%.
during the preliminary development stage or final, can that be changed and amended by the commission?
No.
Okay,
I mean, are you saying, can you take something away you already approved?
that's what I'm saying.
No.
Oh, no.
If he's allowed to build, I mean, he still has to comply with all the other requirements that, if he's in compliance with all the development requirements that they have to go through that currently exist, and that results in less coverage than 60%, then that is what it is. He doesn't get to go to 60% because he has to comply, the developer has to comply with all the other requirements. But if you're asking, can the city say, in the final development stage or subdivision stage, whichever stage down the road, if he complies with all of our requirements and meets, and it has coverage, lot coverage up to 60%, can the commission say, you know what, we don't like 60%, you got to go back down to 50%? The answer is no, you can't do that.
Well, you're a buzz killer.
Weird that you would have a buzz.
Mayor and Commissioners, if I could further clarify.
Yes.
you know, Nathan Milch for the record. So there's a couple different requirements that kind of layer on top of each other here that I just want to bring your attention to. So yes, it's maximum lot coverage per individual lot, and the request is that 60% of that could be covered. A lot of the standard zoning districts that exist in code today, they defer on these requirements. The current R1 district has a 35% maximum lot coverage requirement. And then there's a couple other zoning districts that, with the provision of central utilities, it can go up to 50 and 60 and so on. So I would say that 60 is generally consistent with a lot of development applications that I see in my day-to-day. Other than that, I would say that the requirement for RPUD overall is that 60% of the entire development has common open space, is open space. So open space overall consists of common open space, stormwater ponds, parks, buffering, as well as places on the individual lot. So the requirement for RPUD has 35% common open space, which excludes the lot and just includes the rest of the parcel less right of way and so on. So essentially, these lots have the 60% requirement, but it also is two-tiered, whereas the overall PUD has to meet that 60% requirement.
So, right now, if we don't approve, if we stuck to the rules in our city, not wherever else you work, but this city, it would be 40%.
Based on the previously approved RPUD, yes, sir, that's correct.
Anything else?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-05.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Mayor.
Further discussion.
The title of
I
the
need
ordinance
to-
needs to be read into the record, Your Honor. Are you, Mayor?
Yes. Mr. Adams is fixing to do that.
Ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance of the City of Oak Hill, Florida, amending its Unified Land Development Regulations by rezoning approximately 5.5 acres located north of Golden Bay Boulevard and east of US 1, ID number 8531-00-00-0081, from R1 Low Density Single Family Residential to RPUD Residential Planned Unit Development, City of Oak Hill, approving the overall development plan, which includes not only the 5.5 acres subject to this amendment, but also that portion of parcel ID 8531-00000081 and parcel ID 8531-00000080 that were previously rezoned to RPUD by ordinance 2003-08 and incorporating it into the ordinance for the purpose of regulating the use and development of the property, providing for severability, repealing all laws or parts of laws in conflict herewith, and providing when this ordinance shall take effect.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I think that we should stick with the 40% on the lot size
Me too.
coverage that we have. That is our code now, and I would like to see us stick with that.
I agree with that.
So if you want to amend the motion to include that, then I'm okay with that.
I'll amend the, to include the 40% coverage
Instead of the 60?
instead of the 60.
Okay.
We have the motion amended to allow 40% coverage by the dwelling.
The first order of business, Mayor, would be to approve the amendment. And then if that's approved, then the vote would be on the original motion as amended. So you have to vote on the amendment separately, and then you vote on the amended motion.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Warren?
Mr. Warlick?
I don't have my calculations with me, but with the smaller lots and that lot coverage, I don't think it's going to be feasible to build a house on what's left after you take off 20 from the front and 10 from the back and the side setbacks. That doesn't leave you area to build a normal sized house, which kind of defeats the whole plan of being able to get 4.4 units per acre, which according to the code, I'm basically entitled to. I'm entitled to build minimum of 4 homes per acre on a lot, which is impossible to do. If you've got 60% open space and you're only allowing 40% lot coverage on a lot that has to be 40 to 50, based on the plan submitted, you even get 182 lots on the parcel. So you're basically, by that amendment, you're denying me my rights to build houses on the property. And I would respectfully request that you vote no on that proposed amendment. If you do your calculations, it just won't work. With 40% coverage for a home, I don't even think I could build a 1,200 square foot home on it hardly. With the 60% that's taken away already under RPUD to begin with. And respectfully, again, request that you leave it at 60. One of your approved ones so far was at 70 and the other one was at 60. Your code suggests that there be some consistency with what you're doing so that people know what's going on and can plan accordingly. And to, at the last minute after everybody has approved it, all the agencies, to make that change, we're basically probably in my rights to have at least a minimum of 4 homes on per acre.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Call for the vote on the amended 40%.
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linlaw,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Gatsadano,
Yes.
Commissioner Hyatt.
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Second. If you'll read the second motion.
Oh, yes, sir, sorry. Mayor Gibson?
Not vote,
Oh,
read the motion that Steve made.
The motion would be to approve this ordinance as amended by the last vote to reduce lot coverage from 60% to 40%.
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Mayor, or Vice Mayor Linlaw,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Gatsadano,
No.
Commissioner Hyatt.
No.
Motion passes 3-2. All right. We coming,
10-minute break?
no.
Figured I'd ask.
Meeting Hunt, fiscal year 25 scope of service agreement. Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir. This is from Mead and Hunter, the current city engineers. This is what they propose for the fiscal year 25. The numbers you see before you, they're general engineering services, typically what would be charged to the city for phone calls, any meetings, stuff like that would be $3,000. The development plan review, which would be passed through to the developers, would be around $40,000. So the total not to exceed would be $43,000. They are looking to see if this is agreeable to the city to approve for them to continue their services for next fiscal year.
Is there a motion?
I have a question. Can I ask a question first? All right, it seems to be very vague. Is this similar to what we did before? Because it says they'll provide us $3,000 worth of services for the year, but what's the scope of that? Is that 300 hours of engineering services and planning, or is it 50 hours?
I have those numbers.
You have the numbers?
Yes.
Should they not be included in what we're talking about here?
I could say that depending on the level of the person that we're interacting with, the rates can differ.
Correct.
So if we have, like their admin assistant that's doing something, or a junior engineer as opposed to a senior project manager, it can differ as far as what we're going to be getting covered from. This is just a general number. I can't say exactly, we'll get 300 hours. It all really depends on the type of person that's reviewing whatever it is, or talking with the city as far as whatever work we're doing.
Is this comparable to what we've had in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
It is,
Yeah.
okay.
And we only pay the 3,000, we only
Yeah.
only
And
owe
then
the
the
3,000.
developers, planners pay,
Right.
Yeah.
for the fees, okay. All right, okay.
Jerome, does this agreement have provisions for termination in it?
Yeah, they want to fire them.
I do not see anything like that in there right now.
It's for a year,
Hmm?
for a year,
Yeah, there's no provisions in there
I can
to
clarify this.
terminate
I
the
have these
agreement.
numbers.
right.
Mike has some.
Sure. The mayor's okay with it.
Thank you.
What are you clarifying?
Mike Arman, Magdalene on Mead and Hunt. I have a bill for Mead and Hunt for 13.75 hours, $2,667. That's $194 an hour. It is not itemized. So we can figure Mead and Hunt's getting $200 an hour for their engineering services, round number. They're saying $40,000 for this coming year. That's 200 hours of work for a year, which is 4 hours a week. They're getting $800 for a week's work. I suggest we're in the wrong business. I think we should, at the very least, ask for itemized. What's this 13 3/4 hours? Because my experience with Meat and Hunt is, as one of the evil developers who's gonna pay all this stuff, they had a bunch of stuff that was absolutely inapplicable to what I was doing. They were taking stuff and throwing it up against the wall, hoping it would stick, and most of it did not. But what did stick was the billing. Now, yeah, the developers are gonna pass this through in the prices of the houses, and everybody's complaining houses are too expensive. This might be a reason why. A PE makes $50 an hour in Florida, according to Google. So they're basically quadrupling it. I mean, I know Mr. Mead and Mr. Hunt need bigger yachts, but that's cool. Anyway, my suggestion is gonna be, if we go with Mead and Hunt, I wanna see itemized bills. Where did you spend this 13 3/4 hours? What did you spend this on? You just can't say, oh, 13 and a half hours, let's see, what did we do? Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, we had coffee, we surfed the net, you know. Let me ask you a question. If you went to have your car fixed, don't you get an itemized bill and an estimate? Now, here's the other problem. It's not just the evil developers who are paying these fees. It's everybody in this town who wants to put a fence up is gonna pay $200 an hour to Mead and Hunt. I don't think that's right. I think we need to sharpen this up a little bit. We are not yet big enough to hire our own full-time engineer, but I'm thinking we could very likely find somebody on a part-time basis to do 4 hours of work a week and pay them a lot less than $800 for that.
Thank you. Commission?
I'd like to see more specifics with this. It's just very vague to me, and I'd like to see it broken down into more what we're getting for this, you know, what services they're recommending or saying that we probably will use and what we're paying for. So we know what we're getting for the money we're providing.
I don't disagree with that.
I think a contract that protected the interest of the city would be the, you know, more like the ones that we typically enter into. Would be the right way to go. I agree.
Mr. Adams?
I will reach out to them and request more detail.
Very good.
Table it for
Can
now.
you get me an itemized bill on this turkey?
We're not doing your work. You're the developer.
They won't tell me anything.
What do you mean they won't tell you anything?
Here's the bill.
Are you writing the check?
Yes, I did.
Then
Oh,
I
well, if
think
you've
you
already
have
done
the
it.
power. We don't.
Okay.
I know you can get them.
They work for us though, right?
Yeah.
I will strive not to disappoint you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. So we're gonna have that brought up at the next commission meeting, Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Sheriff's Department, I didn't see the deputy.
He's here, he's here, he's here.
Where is he?
Oh, there he is.
Hiding behind the corner, okay.
Light a fire.
So you can make a quick exit.
Yeah. All right, city admin matters.
Yes, sir. This first item is the Volusia Growth Management Committee member appointment that we spoke of about a month or so ago. Mr. Bonds has indicated his willingness to be our representative on that board.
Ooh, very good.
So this is before the commission to.
I think
for
he
you
would
to
be an
decide
excellent.
Whether or
Yeah.
not to appoint him.
Yes.
Do you need a
Yes.
vote or a consensus?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
No?
He's good, good for this.
Call for the vote?
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linwell.
Yes.
Commissioner McGee.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatagano.
Yes.
Commissioner Hyatt.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
We appreciate that. Next.
This is the Historical Preservation Board.
I'm sorry.
It is,
Yeah,
right?
you are sorry.
Go back to sleep.
Just bringing this before the board for discussion and clarification as far as the purpose of the board, what exactly it is the board is supposed to be doing, whether or not the board is still functioning. There has been some confusion, if you want to call it that, as far as the purpose of the board and whether or not they're still functioning. So I wanted to bring it to the commission for a little discussion, just to give myself here some direction as far as where this board stands and what its purpose is.
Do we actually have a board?
Yes. We have a historical preservation board that currently has 3 members.
3 members?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Tony.
I'm Katie Petraka. I am the chair of the current board. Your question, is there a board? We do not have enough members to continue
To
the board.
constitute a board.
Yeah.
We have 3.
It's a 7-person board, 5 members being city residents, 2 non. So I took over in July, and we have continually tried to gather members. And we do have one person that's actually here tonight who filled out an application to be on the board, but we don't need that. And so what I've done is I felt like I came up with a solution to make this work, because over the years, this board continually gets people on and then it goes away, it fades away. And in 2022, it faded away. Since then, only 3 people have been active on it. So I came up with an idea of being museum volunteers. And I think we're about 3 weeks in, and we have over 20 people who have signed up. They are wanting to continue on, and I've actually spoke to Miss Tammy that's on the list tonight that filled out the application for the historic board. She is well aware of what our goal is with museum volunteers. She's willing to do that as well. I've got over 20 people that are willing
Is
to
that
do it.
Tammy?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I think that's the best way to make it work best for us. The city over the years, people have brought up having historic districts. And a real historic board it deals with the colors of buildings, it deals with districts, historic, and that has been voted down many times. So I think the citizens that's not what they want. They want to have temporary, we'll have events where we acknowledge the buildings, how old they are, but nothing more permanent. So by being museum volunteers and still able to get historic designations, like we are working for the churches, we can do that being museum volunteers. And I think that's the best way to go. And the clarification too is, because we had a couple applications still online, so we had people who thought they were signing up for the museum volunteers that actually filled out the historic board. So there was confusion. So that's what we're trying to clarify. And what would work best, just history's proven that it doesn't work the way it is currently now.
Didn't we do this like 2 months ago?
Yes,
And
it
say,
wasn't
because
brought
the attorney said that they couldn't meet unless they had a announcement ahead of time. And
That was the problem, is that
Minutes.
they were falling into the legal constraints of being a board that
sunshine law
is
and-
falling under the
right.
sunshine laws,
Right.
so.
So we
You don't want
we
that.
disbanded the board and
State of Florida
said that we
does.
would work on as
The volunteers,
volunteers.
right.
We did this like
As a
2 months
volunteer,
ago.
though.
Not as a
Well,
volunteer.
if I could say a couple things, this is the city attorney. The issue was when, in talking with, I guess, the previous chairman of the historic board, it came to my attention that basically the historic board was focused mainly on the museum. That's if what I was being told is that's mainly what they were working on. And then the people who were on the historic board were also volunteers at the museum. And that creates a potential problem because obviously when they're down there volunteering, working at the museum, most likely they're going to be talking about museum things, but they also serve on a board, a historic board, which the historic board's duties do not include the museum. You have to kind of infer that from somehow imply that into it. So the concern I had was if you have a historic board, and it almost seemed like you had to be a member of the board to be a volunteer. It almost seemed like there was that kind of assumption that if you have a historic board that's mainly talking about the museum and they have to meet in the sunshine and can only talk about things that can come before them in a publicly advertised meeting, and then when they leave their meeting, they go down and they volunteer at that museum, there's a really good chance they could talk about things at that museum while they're volunteering that could come before them on the board. So I said, it's really not a good idea to have volunteers serve on a city board that kind of, they cover the same topic. Our boards we have a PLDRC. They give the city commission a recommendation on a planning issue. They don't then go out and inspect and watch the development of the property. That's not what they're not volunteers to go out there and make sure that this stuff is being built correctly. They serve their role as a board member. They make the recommendation to the commission. Just like here, the historic board should make its recommendation to the commission, but then don't go out and implement historic things, the regulations, and get involved in, because as a volunteer. We should have volunteers, and we should have a historic board. Right. Two different groups of people. And that's when I talked to the chairman. I said, the likelihood that y'all won't be able to accidentally cross into a sunshine violation is pretty remote. So I think the decision ought to be made: are you going to be a volunteer and work at the museum, or do you want to serve on the historic board? Because the historic board, according to their duties, are supposed to do a lot more than just the museum. Like I said, the museum's not even mentioned in the historic board's duties. Now, according to the previous chairman, mostly what the historic board was doing was museum-related issues. But that's what we mentioned to y'all a couple months ago. We said some of the historic board members may be resigning just to serve as volunteers for the museum so they can continue to work on the museum as a volunteer, free from the sunshine law restrictions. But we did not disband the historic board. Historic board's still on the books. I don't know how many of the board members of the historic board resigned to just be a volunteer, how many stayed. My only advice would be the people who serve on the historic board do not serve as volunteers to carry out what is implementing the historic board's purpose. You could get a bad situation there. Other cities I've had where we've had parks and rec boards. They would have a park and rec board meeting, but they would then be the people who were there setting up the events and working in the events. And it was creating potential sunshine law violations, especially when they started talking about the things they would have, go back to someone's house and let's have a drink, tea or something. And all of a sudden they start talking about it. They have a bunch of informal meetings. You can't do that. So my advice is you can be a board member and do your job as a board member, or you can be a volunteer. Be one or the other. Just don't try to do too much because you may create sunshine law violations.
Thank you.
Maybe we need to readdress what the historical board actually does, because this was created in December 18th of the year of 2000. So this hasn't gone anywhere for 24 years. So maybe we need to look at the scope of what the historical board does on this paper and maybe redo it so that it's more in line of what we're wanting the historical board and the volunteer groups to do. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're gonna run into the same problem, no matter changing the duties of the historical board. They can't volunteer. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And it makes it very difficult for Tanya,
Yeah.
Drew Ann,
Mhm.
Dana, and others that have volunteered. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a shame that we're picking on legalities, but I do understand
Yeah.
the legalities of it. I think Tanya's got it figured out as best she can with the volunteers. They just can't serve on the historical board,
Sure.
which means you.
Right.
So if all the members on the board want to volunteer, then we have no board, so,
Well, we haven't had a board until the last
Well,
couple of years.
yeah, I know. but-
And then I think you would have to go back, it's gonna be bigger than that, because the current chapter 20 that you have for the historic board, we do not do anything with.
Right.
The city doesn't do it. We have never done it. And we've actually voted against pretty much everything that's in there. So it really does not, and it was not written for us. It was
Right.
used as a fill-in.
Well, like I
Yeah.
said, this is from 2000, so.
Right,
Yeah.
so, I mean, and that's the last time that we met with, or spoke with the lawyer, that was where we were going, is this was a solution to come up to be able to function and do what we're doing, and it wasn't voted on at that time, the vote wasn't gone through.
Can we
So-
put the board on hold until we have
That's what we were asking.
a brainstorm?
Yeah, I think that's what she
That's
wants
what
to
we were
do.
asking the
Yeah.
last
And
time,
then-
but it wasn't.
Jerome's paper here says that we already did. I don't remember that. He says the commission had put the board on hiatus. I guess that must have happened before I was a
We did that a
commissioner.
couple months
We
ago.
did it a couple months ago.
No, we didn't.
Well,
No, we didn't.
I don't think the commission took
Scott
any
dropped that at
action.
the end of a
It was
3-hour
based on the
meeting when
I was
everybody
at.
was ready
We were
to
at
go
the end of
home.
the meeting,
Yeah,
and
and we didn't
had-
vote on anything.
that day or the day before, had the conversation with Tanya, I think, Jerome and I did, and I just updated the board to say, you know, we ran into these issues, so what we may have is board members are possibly going to resign just so they can focus on volunteering at the museum, and we won't have any sunshine issues, and then you're going to have to come back at some point in the future and deal with the historic board. It's still on the books, but you don't have enough, you don't have a quorum, so you can't meet.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, but you're either going to have to appoint people and they're to do what this chapter 20 says, but as Tanya said, they didn't do any of that. So
But that's by choice.
I'm not
though, right?
sure there's a point
Yeah, it
to
is.
appointing people to a board that has
Leadership.
duties that you don't want done.
Right.
So I think I agree with reevaluate what the purpose of the board is and come up with that, and then point a full board, and they can serve the purpose that y'all want them to. Now, a future commission may want to do something different. That's fine. They can amend the ordinance to expand the duties. But there's a lot of things that are in there that I was being told weren't being done. So, and
Why?
I don't know if just by default or, you know, to have something to do, they started focusing on the museum. They started talking about it. Okay, not specifically mentioned, but I think you could probably incorporate that and infer that into a historic board. My radar went up when I heard, well, all the volunteers are board members. I'm like, whoa. I said, you know, you can't tell me you're not somehow talking about something when y'all volunteer at the museum that could foreseeably come before you as a board member. And if you do, intentional or unintentional, we have an inadvertent sunshine violation. So we need to eliminate the opportunity to violate the sunshine law.
Right, that's
So
why I brought it to the
my
attention
advice
and I met with
was,
everybody too.
look, do one or the other. You know, just don't do both.
And it has, Joe just said it has to do with leadership, it has nothing to do, like, when I took the position over, it's never been done.
Well, the purpose of the board is clearly outlined in the
It's
ordinance.
clearly, and it
I
has
mean,
not
so what
fallen
is the
there,
problem?
and it
I don't
hasn't
understand where
been
the
done.
problem is. I mean, it's right there. Here it is, you know? I say get a quorum on the board, keep it running, get the volunteers going, and we're done.
This is not the first time that this board has been put on hiatus or.
It's never been, well, at least we
Maybe
never did.
not in front of you.
We never voted to put
Historically, I've
this
gone
board
back-
on.
Joe, historically, I've gone back all the way through the minutes of 2010 and made notes. And I have the notes that say what the history of this board is. There's a history of this historic board where people have not done anything with it, period. There were times when it was taken, I'm sure you've been on here for 12 years. You have watched this come and go.
Yes.
And I know you have because I read the minutes, so. Just saying. She's got the notes. In 2021, you were not on the board. In 2021, the previous city manager came before this board and she told you, the first thing she did was she took all of the members of the historic board off. And the next thing she did was set up 3 new members of the historic board. The next thing she did after that was to declare that they were going to begin to use the BIA Hall as a museum. 2 months after she said that, they opened as a museum. The only thing that historic board did from that point forward was work on the museum. They worked on the museum and on community events. That's the history of it. That's why it hasn't been followed. That's why it didn't follow anything, because the previous city manager who sat on that board did their minutes, did their agendas, did not direct them properly.
What the Historic Preservation Board does is a choice. They choose to do that. They could do what it lists here. It's a choice. You
Okay,
chose to go
I'll agree with you there, sir.
to do
But
that.
the choice was, at the time, the choice was made by previous board members and by the previous city administrator who ran the board, as we understand it. Unfortunately, she's not here to defend herself or argue this with me. All I
She
can
doesn't
tell
need
you-
to be. The commission's the one that makes decisions about the board.
Okay, well then
So,
we
if she
respectfully
did that,
at this
you
point
know,
in time
who knows?
would like to request the commission, because we don't wish to be in violation of the code, and we don't wish to be in violation of the Sunshine Law. And we've been directed by the city attorney. We are asking that you put the Historic Preservation Board on hiatus, make it official, vote on it. Then what we are asking that you do is create a community museum volunteers. This can be done because it was done way back in the day, and I believe Ms. Hyatt remembers it, when they came forward in front of the commission
Right.
with the kitty committee. And when they came and they voted on the kitty committee to make a committee to work with the community, with the commission, you were actually the commissioner that was appointed to be a liaison to that, were you not?
Right, yeah, definitely.
My time's up, guys, sorry. Unless I can talk past my buzzer. That is what we are asking
Any
you to
other
do.
questions of Drew in?
Didn't have one in the first place.
I make a motion that we put the historic board on hiatus. We have a workshop to determine what we want them to do, all right? And we separate the historic board from the museum volunteers.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Well, we have a community member here that wants to be part of the Historic Preservation Board.
Well, that's coming up.
We also, if you put it on hiatus, what's the point?
Well, if you put
You
it
wanna
on.
be
I mean, I already know
Here.
that Dana Gratrix wants to be on the board. I know that,
Okay,
Should just put
Tammy Creek 124 North Campus. So when I read the ordinances, I think it says 5 residents. Hereby consist of 5 residents of the city, and then if you desired, I thought it was 2 of the 5 could be non-residents.
That's what it says, yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yes.
understand that. I also think that the ordinance needs to be updated and clarified, and I still would like, now that I understand the nuances, I still would like to be applied to be on that board. And I heard that there's 3 other residents, I don't know who they are, and I didn't, did you get any more applications? I thought,
No,
I didn't think I was gonna be the only one.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so now that, as you clarify things, and I don't know what Dana would say if she has to choose between the museum.
she told me already that that's what her choice was.
Yeah, she did
And
mention.
Julie
it
Wood
before.
mentioned to me that she wanted to be on the Historic Preservation Board too.
Right, that was-
So that's a quorum right
So
there.
the 3 quorum.
I'm confused. She's a volunteer or a board member?
She wants to be a board member,
Okay.
Julie Wood, and so does
Julie?
Dana. Yeah.
Does she live here now?
I don't think so, but she has Because
there's
in the
two
ordinance
ways.
says that
Yeah.
you can
to
have somebody that's out of.
The amount, they haven't filled out the application, so you can sit and say, all these people want to be on it. The problem is, for a year now, I have been trying to get everybody. And here again, Dana's not here tonight. So for you to speak for her isn't quite, because it shows in numbers. So every single time I've had a meeting and asked for people to show up, the problem is they don't, including Dana. So I know when Dana shows up, you do not, because I have not yet seen you down at the museum. And so therefore, the problem is with numbers. I had 20-something people coming that night for volunteers.
How's that a
because they
problem?
do not
You
want to
have,
be
you have,
part of
we're
it.
already giving you
So-
what you want. You know, you said you wanted to be a volunteer thing,
But you
nobody's
said that
arguing
you
with
have
that.
Julie Wood, you have these other people. They haven't filled
Yeah,
out
we're talking about for
applications.
this, for the
Right,
Historic
but
Preservation
you're
Board.
still bringing up that, the hiatus, this is the reason why the board hasn't worked. I don't mind you giving me what I want,
The
but
board
be
will
fair
work
about
if we
the
let
way the
it.
board works. It doesn't work that way. And like she said, it does need to be updated.
It would
She's
be
brand
easy-
new, she's brand new, has nothing in it, and she knows it already. You read it, it needs to be updated. And I'm not arguing with you, and that's all I have.
Good, good.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linwall.
Yes.
Commissioner McGee.
Yes.
Commissioner Gatagano.
No.
Commissioner Hyatt.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
I actually have two more things, Mr.
Two more things?
Yeah.
Okay.
That I was unable to add to the agenda. The first one has to do with the Indian Harbor Estates and the septic to sewer. The issue we had with the road repairs that were done, and we had complaints from the residents about the quality of the work. We had a meeting with Mead and Hunt, Metro Services, D2 Paving, the city attorney, public works supervisor, and myself to discuss the issues that the residents had brought up. Following that meeting, the participants actually met on site to physically look at the issues and created a punch list of what needed to be corrected and developed a plan to actually address the issues. This past week, they've actually gone there and done the work, repaired the roads. The city had, swale put in for 2 residents. We did a driveway for somebody else. And so far, it looks like everything has been addressed. Mead and Hunt has signed off on the work done as being acceptable. The city has looked at it and we deemed it acceptable also. So they're asking if we would release their final payment. Bringing it to the commission just to see if there is anything else they wish to discuss first before we actually go through and release that payment. And
We've still got somebody working on Mr. Peterson, right? So that's still out there.
That has
that's
nothing to do with
different.
it.
That's a different issue.
Has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Is it?
But yeah, we still
That's a
do
separate
have.
issue.
We still have to
we
do
still
it.
have to do
Yeah.
it.
Still
and
have to do
we're
it,
still
but that's
looking.
not this.
Part of the original agreement.
Yeah, this is the original agreement. One of the questions I have
Okay.
is, and I don't know, Mr. Bell might be able to answer me. With the rain we had today, did the swales get checked to see if the flow was diverted or whatever the problem was?
Mark Bell, Public Works Supervisor for the City of Lakewood. To answer that question, Mayor, I haven't been out there from the rain today because it was after we had left, but subsequently to putting in the swales, I went out there every time it rained, and those were the only 2 driveways that had water in them. Since we have put in the swale, I have spoken to Ms. Holly. I haven't talked to Mr. Laney, but she said there has not been any rain in her driveway since the subsequent rains, since the swales have been put in. I was gonna go by there and check tomorrow to see if there was water sitting there overnight, but to the best of my knowledge, she is all smiles at this point.
Good. That was my main concern, that, you know, and I think the humps in the roads have all been taken care of, if I'm not mistaken. The ones I drove down were fine.
The punch list has been taken care of?
Yes, sir. They didn't address every single open cut crossover in the road. Some were worse than others. The ones that were, for lack of a better term, if you drove over them, they'd spill your coffee. Those were the ones that they addressed. The other ones were, I guess if you could say, acceptable from a engineering perspective as far as how high they were. They weren't high enough to put it on anybody's radar. I rode around with Noah from Mead and Hunt, and basically we got out, had a level and measured, and as long as they weren't over a certain height, then those got left alone. There, just to give you an idea, there were issues at the end of Ariel Road where the actual base was already coming through the asphalt. Some of the asphalt was unraveling. That was also the case at another cul-de-sac. Those, instead of trying to remill that whole area, they actually went over the existing asphalt, so the asphalt in the cul-de-sac should actually be a little thicker now. They milled where the joint was gonna be so that there wouldn't be a lip there, but they actually repaved over the existing asphalt to give us an actual thicker asphalt construction. The only issue that we may have down the road is on those cul-de-sacs. It wasn't in the original work order put in, but with the cul-de-sacs being very small and the garbage trucks and trucks and trailers who service that area being rather large, they are tight cul-de-sacs. So the vehicles tend to get down on the shoulder, on the inside of the cul-de-sac. We had talked about it with Brian from D2 Paving, Noah from Mead and Hunt, and even Mr. Blaze. The best option to stop the asphalt from crumbling away on the inside edge of that would be for the city to possibly put in what they call like a ribbon curb, a concrete curbing to give the asphalt a backstopping. That wasn't in their original plan, but that is an issue that we may need to address later down the road, but that wasn't part of the original scope of work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So what's before the board is, do we pay the contractor the final payment? How much is it?
It was approximately 140,000.
Well, I think if the work has been done, then we should go ahead and write the check.
Oh, I hate to.
I know, I
What's
do too.
left? He just said that it wasn't all complete, right? So do we know what's left to complete?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'm just asking, what's not complete?
So everything on the punch list that we came up with when everybody was in the office and on site, all of that work has been completed. Like what I was talking about, that we may need to do later in the future to preserve the road is to put a curb in, but that would be on the city itself. That wasn't part of the original plan.
So you're saying the punch list is complete?
Yes, sir, the punch
Okay.
list has been completed, everything's been, I actually rode through there while they were doing the work, and then afterwards with a representative from Mead and Hunt, and we went to every single location where they had done work to
Complete.
check and make sure everything was done correctly, yes, sir.
Pay them.
Well, the work's done.
Is that your motion?
Just so everybody knows,
Hold
as
on.
I mentioned earlier, there is a one-year performance bond. So they're one-year warranty with a performance bond on the warranty. So if there is a problem that occurs during the one-year period of time, that is covered by the warranty and a bond to cover it. We also, this is a contract. So a breach of contract action can be brought for 5 years, breach of a written contract. So there's a difference between a warranty issue and a breach of contract. A warranty issue is they built according to the plans and all of a sudden something they built broke. It didn't last a year. A breach of contract action is you didn't follow the plans and maybe it was some latent defect that wasn't caught, but it's caught in 2 years. that they failed, maybe they covered up something, whatever the case may be, they didn't build according to the terms of the contract. We could still bring a breach of contract action even though it's beyond the 1 year warranty period, because arguably that is not a warranty issue. It's a breach of contract, which has a 5-year statute of limitations. But as it sits right now, basically your engineer, who's engineer of record, whose job it is to review all pay requests to make sure they're in compliance with the contract documents, has approved and submitted the pay request. City staff went out there, Mark went out there, they all came up with a punch list items, and they're all saying they have complied with everything we asked them to do.
So there's no reason to not pay them.
Can't, yeah.
That is hasty.
It's a big check.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
When does the 1 year warranty start? Does anybody know?
1 year warranty should start, I think it would start on, I'll check that, but it probably will start when we accept the project for final payment.
Yeah, I would think. Yep.
That would make a note of it.
But I'll go back and check. It's either one of 2 days. One would be upon substantial completion when we accepted and started using it, or when we made final payment. I just have to see how it's worded. But we're still within the warranty period either way.
Thank you.
Then I'll make the motion, go ahead and pay them if everything's
I'll second.
done.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No?
None? Call for the vote.
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linlaw,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Cosagano,
Yes.
Commissioner Hyatt.
Yes.
Okay, no,
One more
our
thing,
motion
sir.
passes 5-0. Go ahead, Mr. Adams, sorry.
I'm going to skip ahead on the agenda a little just so I can have Mr. Norden get out of here.
Let's not get out of here, I enjoyed it.
So he's
I
going
always
to be,
love coming to-
You're just a good man, that's all.
Better
You'll put up with anything.
Better than Monday Night TV, isn't it?
You're right, you're right. But it's nice to be back there, that's for sure. And thank you so much for your attention. It's been about a year since I've given our Team Volusia update. And I wanted to, we've had a great year, and I brought a PowerPoint for you just to look through. As you may remember, if you flip over the first page, we're a public-private partnership. We're the official business recruitment arm for Volusia County. We have cooperative agreements with 15 of the 16 municipalities of Volusia County, the county, of course, and the 6 colleges and universities and 80 private sector companies. Just a slide of our officers, really proud. We have 3 county and municipal officials. We have Joyce Shanahan as our treasurer. We have Michael Cloyce from DeLand as our municipal representative. And of course, George Rackenwall as county manager as an officer. A nice staff, very proud of the staff. And as you know, you've heard me say it, economic development is team sport, so we're in a great collaborative environment. We work with all the chambers of commerce, all the municipalities, all the universities. No one organization has ever brought a project to county. It's a group of people at the table. We're very proud of what we've done with SEVMTC for Southeast Volusia. The next slide are all our private investors. We have over 80 private companies funding our organization. The beauty with the leveraging of the public funds with the private funds is the public funds pay for our operations and our rent. The private sector funds pay for everything else. So all the outreach, the studies, the strategic planning, all that is done by the private sector. Just a slide on marketing. We are looking forward to highlighting Volusia County and Florida Trend. This will be the 4th time we've done it in 12 years. It's a nice special piece. But we also publish Livability, which is a talent recruitment piece.
And we're very pleased that we worked with FPL, Florida Power and Light, to develop lifeinvolusia.fl.com, which is a talent recruitment piece and a quality of life piece that's viewed by many people interested in moving and relocating to Volusia County. And we're doing that in unison with FPL. I've got all the metrics. You know, we're very metric, so the metrics of our marketing are there. And then what we're really proud of is the new 5-year strategic plan. It's called Team Volusia 2030. So they came in and actually whittled down, met with many people, and surveyed a lot of people, but also uncovered that we have 2 new target industries. You know, we're very focused on aviation and aerospace just because of our geographic location is the northern part of the space triangle. But along with that, we have advanced manufacturing, including the boat building, but also all of the manufacturing that we have here. We have over 450 manufacturers in Volusia County. Corporate and regional headquarters, we have those. We also have Life Sciences through V. Braun, that's in Daytona Beach, really the world's largest pharmaceutical company, privately owned. And of course, logistics with our new cold storage coming up off of I-95 and logistics services. So these targets are what we already were working with, but they uncovered 2 others, and they make sense. Finance and insurance, because of V. Braun, Security First, and Foundation Risk Partners. Excellent salaries, so we're excited that that's a new target. And then information technology, data centers, and software development. So the next slide is our outreach. And as I mentioned, the private sector pays for all this outreach. I might say that Mike Arman goes with us. He's gone with us for 2 years to SpaceCom, and maybe it's 3 years. SpaceCom is a commercial space conference in Orlando, and Mike always comes and is there with us. But that trade show alone costs $12,000 for us to do, and that's at the Orange County Convention Center. The others are all done by all very important, mostly focused to aviation and aerospace. And as many of you know, we were the primary conduit for Blue Origin when they were looking here. And we're very proud of Blue Origin. They didn't locate here, but they have placed $1 billion worth of investment in the county south to us. So it's a huge amount of investment, a huge number of jobs, which we're very sorry because, I came in with them the first time and we got a nice camouflage ball cap. So I hope they still have it. So, but they were high on Oak Hill, as others would be. This is a snapshot of the first year. We've had over 260 face-to-face meetings during our outreach. The purpose of the outreach is to raise the visibility of Volusia County, to raise the visibility of our municipalities, but also to be at the table so people know that we're players. We have over 70 projects in pipeline. To date, we've announced 3 projects with a total of 441 jobs, but an economic impact of $625 million. And the important one is Boeing Defense, and that's tied to the Embry-Riddle Research Park, but we were a vital role of that. And what that has done when we've been on the road, Boeing is a big name. So if Boeing is here in Volusia County, that gives a little check mark to our efforts in aviation and aerospace. And then the next slide is just a 10-year metric of what we've done. 54 projects in the last 10 years, almost 7,000 jobs, and a total economic impact of $2 billion. The next slide is just what we're really proud of because we are accredited. We had to go for an accreditation through IEDC. IEDC is the organization that manages and controls 5,000 economic development organizations like us in Canada, Mexico, and in the U.S. So we were accredited, and we're 2% of all the EDOs in North America are accredited, so we're very proud to have that check mark. And what that does for companies and site selectors who are thinking of bringing a project to our area, they know that the project will be taken care of because we've been accredited. They visited the community, and their parting words, what's so exciting, is when they left our organization, before we really received the accreditation, the visiting team said, we cannot wait to see what happens in the next year, 10 years in Volusia County. So they were really positive, and they have gone all over Mexico and Canada and the U.S. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I appreciate your support through the last few years.
As always, thank you.
Yep.
But I've got one comment.
What is that?
If the fuel farm contacts you, Oak Hill is off limits.
We don't want it.
You're not taking any calls from the fuel farm.
Thank goodness.
I had just,
During all this mess, let me tell you, I would get phone, this is probably, it's on the record, but I get phone calls from very important people saying, are you involved with fuel farm? It's like, no.
I'm glad that you're partnered with FPL, because I see when you have in your informational technology thing, you have data centers. They are huge users of electricity, so
Oh, no,
they're
are.
definitely
That's
gonna.
why FPL
Yeah.
also-
Oh, yeah.
also
That's a good
pulled
choice. Yeah.
But the good thing about FPL, we had a little bit of a change at the state level. The Enterprise Florida that we worked with was really put into the old Department of Commerce. So a lot of the project managers that we worked with have left. And so what FPL has done is they have their own economic development department, which is great for us, so they feed us projects.
Oh, that's good.
They also have a site readiness program that they just introduced, and we have to place a couple of sites, and Foreman Crossing was selected. So they've actually done a site readiness program for Foreman Crossing, which is exciting for us because they're going to feed us projects. And, you know, regardless of where a project locates in Volusia County, you know, we want them to locate here, but wherever they locate, the employees will live all over the county. So they'll spend money all over the county.
Mhm.
Well, and boy, mowing is, you're gonna be at the research park, but that's 400 jobs and 120,000 per job average wage. So that's a great, great asset for Volusia County. So thank you for your attention.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your leadership in Oak Hill.
Thank you.
And the community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sure,
Have a good evening, and be careful going home.
sure will. Thank you for pushing me up a little bit. Appreciate it. Nice to
Bye-bye.
see you all.
While we're on that subject, sir, we have the agreement that's up for renewal with Team Volusia. They've submitted their agreement this year. The city's contribution would be $1,239, up from last year of $1,221.
18 bucks more.
So,
I make a motion, we approve the
Agreed.
agreement.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion from commissioners? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linlaw,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Gattagano,
Yes.
Commissioner Hyde.
Yes.
Okay.
there's one more thing, sir.
Yes, interlocal agreement with County Retransportation Impact Fee.
Actually, before we get to that
House
one,
Bill 470.
before we get to that one.
Oh, you added something.
I added something.
Oh,
This one, again, came in after I after I completed the agenda, and it was regarding the Lazy Z Lane application, the fees that the consultants had invoiced us for doing their work on this application, and we had submitted to the applicant for payment. He made the payment, but subsequently put a stop on the check. Spoke to him with the deputy, and his contention is that he did not realize that he was responsible for these fees, as the commission had denied his application. Commissioner pointed out to me that I should have sent him a demand letter, so that's what I have done. I sent that out this last Friday. Per the Florida statute, he has 30 days to respond to pay the fees in total, plus a 5% penalty. So I will see what happens, and I will let you know as time progresses.
Okay. Just let us know.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else besides the retransportation impact fee?
No, sir. We can move on to that one.
Okay.
We have one more speaker. Joanne would like to say something.
Yes.
This is not about what's going on now. This was for the historic board, which is again, respectfully, commissioners, there are 4 names listed on your historic board right now currently. One of them is Sarah Shoemaker Ireland. She resides in Jacksonville and has not been at any board meetings in over a year. It is up to you what you do with her membership. She was never asked to leave. She never expressed interest in it. Dana Greatrix is another member. Tanya Petraka is a member, and I am a member. Tanya was the chair, or is the chair as of right now. I am listed as the secretary. In light of the information that the attorney has presented, mostly making sure that no members of the historic board are working on the museum volunteers. He was very clear about that. No one should be crossing over between those two boards. You did hear him say that, correct?
Correct.
Correct. As such, I am going to take my name off. I would like to withdraw from the historic board. I will become fully active with the museum volunteers, and I would love to, when we are looking at people to be in charge of the museum volunteers group, if this commission so chooses though, or if you don't decide it, I would love to see Tanya Petraka be given the opportunity to be the chair of the museum board and also be allowed to take her name off, but I cannot take her name off for her. Therefore, I am leaving your historic board, and I would be working on the museum volunteers. That will leave you with 1 inactive member, 1 possible member, and 1 future member, and it's a board of 7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're at the impact fee.
Now we're at the impact. So this before you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, is an interlocal agreement between the county and the city. Basically what this is saying is the governor has signed a law whereby if counties receive a transportation impact fee, they have to, the city, if the city so chooses, the city can be the one to receive the fees from the developers, but then they would have to be responsible for distributing to whoever it needs to go to, county or whatever. The county is asking if we want to remain with the status quo, where they collect the fees and they disperse it to the various cities. We have to do this before October 1st, if you so choose. There are some stipulations here. If I can read it. The bill does not eliminate county transportation impact fees. However, it does encourage coordination between counties and municipalities regarding transportation impacts. If there are no interlocal agreements, the developer receives a 10% reduction in the impact fees and proportionate fair share agreements. In addition, the entity that issues the building permit must collect the transportation impact fees and distribute the proceeds to the relevant county or municipality within 60 days of payment receipt. The above requirement does not apply to counties or municipalities that enter into an interlocal agreement by October 1st, 2024.
I have a question. How are the fees used by the county or the city?
The impact fees, I believe, are for the county, because it's for county or state roads.
Well, I have a question on that, and what we were just talking about before with the White House. All right, they're gonna, according to what he said, they're gonna build the roads in there and then turn them over to us. Is there an impact fee that they pay to the county for the roads they're gonna build?
That I don't know, but it will.
And if it is, that ought to come to us, because we'll be the ones maintaining them, won't we?
Well, the county has an impact fee per house, $12,000.
I don't think impact fees can be used for maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. Impact fees can.
Capacity.
They can only be used for construction of new things. You can't use them for existing projects. We had the same problem in Osceola because we had impact fees for fire services, and it was very restrictive on what you could use. You could only use it for brand-new stations, for brand-new trucks. You can't use it for personnel. You can't use it for any other equipment other than what you need for supplying the new trucks. So while everybody thinks impact fees are a great resource, they really aren't, because they're so restricted on what you can use them for.
Could we use them for a new tractor to put mill down on the roads?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Probably not.
Sure, well, I think
Probably
Well, I'm
not.
just curious in there, because if the developer's building the roads and then turning them over to us, but the county's collecting the impact fee for the roads.
Yeah,
Well,
that-
the developer, it could be when the developer builds roads, that, there's all kind of impact fee credit, proportional fair share
Okay.
agreements, that they may be credits against the impact fees they pay.
Okay. That-
So it's relatively, it's pretty confusing, but, the idea is, say you have a 2-lane road, and we have an impact fee. For new subdivisions are getting built on this 2-lane road. I don't think we can use the impact fee to resurface that road, as we have not increased the capacity of that road. But if we turn the 2-lane road into a 4-lane road to accommodate the growth that is on the road, the increased traffic because of the new subdivisions, we can use impact fees to pay for the cost of expanding the capacity.
Now, if expanding the size of the road from a 12-foot to a 16-foot, is that expanding the capacity?
Probably not. That's probably just making it legal. It really wouldn't hold a bigger capacity. That's probably
think
not,
going
just
from
because
a
it
2-lane
should have
to a
been
4-lane.
bigger to start with. It's still a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be, I would have to look at that. But as a general statement, it's limited to what you can use impact fees money for. And most of your impact fee ordinances that I've seen adopted recently say if you don't spend the money within a certain period of time, you got to give it back.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, Daytona's in that problem right now with their
Yeah.
building department.
Well, that's a state law. That's a different issue. But yeah, that is their building inspection fees.
Right.
Yeah.
But it conceptually it's the same thing. You can't, with that, the building inspection fees you collect, you have to spend on providing building inspection services. You can't use that to subsidize general administration costs.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
I'd say we just leave it as is.
Yes, leave it.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. We just leave the agreement as it has been in the past, and
I'll second it.
I have a second. Have a motion and a second. Discussion from the commissioners? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Mayor Gibson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Linlaw?
Yes.
Commissioner McGee?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazzagano?
Yes.
Commissioner Hyatt?
Yes.
With the city goals, I don't know where we're at with Mead and Hunt doing the engineering to run the water line down West Halifax, down Flamingo. we've got $2 million sitting there that we got from the state. And I fear if we don't use it, they're gonna take it back.
I have reached out to them, I haven't heard back, I'll reach out again.
Please do. If we need to get somebody else, let's get somebody else. I mean, that's just my feeling, because I heard from other city officials that you get this money and DEP sits on it, and they'll sit on it for a while. And a couple of years, you don't use it, goes back to state general fund. And I'd rather at least have the engineering in hand and not lose that money. We use part of the money for hooking up, which DEP allowed that, which I was tickled to death.
Speaking of that, we have submitted our first 2 reimbursement requests to, through Mead and Hunt to the state to get our funds back for the hookups that have been done in Indian Harbor so far. It should total about $140,000, so we're waiting to get that back.
Excellent.
Cool.
Excellent.
Cool. All right, moving on, boards and committees. Mikey?
Thank you. I want to go home too, but I got a couple items. I'll try to be brief.
Please do.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, you can have a seat.
No,
Oh.
some of this is actually might be important, so, okay. Keith did not mention that Daytona Beach Airport Industrial Park signed a preliminary agreement with a company that's going to be manufacturing aircraft, and they expect to have 1,000 employees up there shortly.
Is that the electric airplanes?
Yeah.
I saw something about
I saw that.
And I'm a little nervous about that because you and I are both aware of the statement, you want to make a small fortune in aviation, start with a large one. But I wish them luck, and I'll tell you what, if they actually get it going, we're going to have a lot of people running around spending a lot of money because they're going to pay well. The next one involves Spacecom. Yes, it costs $12,000 to exhibit there, but attendance is free. You come on down. It's a fabulous show. You have to pre-register online, and what I will do at the next time they announce it, I'll let everybody know when and where and so forth. They had the moon buggy there 2 years ago, and I asked them, "Are you guys giving out samples?" And they said, "That ain't gonna fit in your car." And I said, "I understand it folds up." And they said, "Keep that guy away from that." Saturday, I went down to MIMS and talked to ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, which is an organization. They want to talk to Joe Buck, who, by the way, needs to talk to you, Jerome, regarding Wi-Fi in the parks. Joe Buck is interested in having them put repeaters on some of his towers so that we can tie in to the emergency radio networks, because when the phones go down and the internet goes down, amateur radio still works. So that's pending, and it looks like it's going to happen. Surplus equipment for the state. I went to their website and signed on because they have stuff they want to give away, which, hey, free's always good. And the site is involved and user hostile, and typical government website. And I got just about done, and it says you have an hour and a half to finish this, or we're going to kick you out. Well, I finished it on time, submitted it, and they said, we'll get back to you in 45 days. I'm still trying to access the shopping list because I know Mark wants some stuff. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know, Mike, when you say free is good, that lot that we had in Lighthouse Cove was free, remember?
Yeah, let's put
That didn't work out so
we
good,
don't
so.
have to take it if we don't want it. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other boards? No? Public Works.
Yes.
Yes, sir, we do have
Mr. Bell.
something to bring before the commission.
Mr. Travis.
I will start this off, and then I am going to let Mr. Allen handle part of this because he has a lot more time, seat time, and involvement with our Massey Ferguson tractor and the bush hog. last week while Travis was driving it. One of the axles on the Bush Hog actually broke. Thank goodness the tire went to the woods, not to the road. It also has a very severe hydraulic leak. The PTO switch is not working. It has a leaky hydraulic cylinder. It's about time for new front tires. A quick call around and look up for parts, not so much labor. Welding and fabrication that needs to be done on it when the tire broke and bent part of the Bush Hog itself. We're probably at somewhere close to the $6,000 or $7,000 range if we try to keep most of it in-house. If we shop it outside, we're probably closer into the $7,000 to $10,000 range to fix the tractor and the Bush Hog as it currently sits. We can put a couple of Band-Aids on it and possibly sell it at auction and use that money to put towards a new one. But I'm gonna let Travis explain to you some of the history on the machine and how much money we have spent on it, because he's been running it a lot longer. But just so you know, a new one runs somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000 for a new tractor and a new Bush Hog. I did have an idea that I tried to run by Mr. Adams, and that was possibly, I don't know if everybody knows, but the DOT contract that we have, before I started here, it was paying about $46,000 to $50,000 a year. That has since tripled. I don't know how frequent those checks come in, but if we were surviving on that before, could we possibly use the money from that to replace the tractor? And not have to put the burden on taxpayer dollars. Let's use the money that we're making off the highway now, since we are actually making money, not losing money. But I'm gonna let Travis explain some more of the tractor, because he's been using it a lot longer than I have.
Travis Allen, Chief of Public Works. We've had the Massey Ferguson and the Bush Hog both the entire tenure of my employee through 5 years, and as far as I know, been here quite a lot longer since then. Believe even so that it was a second-hand piece of equipment, my best understanding, both of those. So just imagine a whole other life before you even came here. Since I've started on the machine, day one, there was buttons and functions on it that never worked, part of the hydraulic system. The transmission has been here and there. We've had clutch work done to it before, which that was pretty extensive. That's not anything we can do in-house. We have to get the logistics of shipping that to somewhere to be able to work on it. Closest place, I believe, is Orlando. The last time we did it, fortunately, Robinson's tractor was still a Massey dealer. They are no longer anymore. And basically, they're like, don't even call us no more. But when they did come and pick it up for that transmission work, I did speak to the mechanic that was going to be working on it, and he was kind of picking my brain as to what the tractor was doing. One of the big things he asked me then was the tractor jumping out of reverse? At that time, every great once in a while, it was not doing it nearly as much. He said, good, transmission's still salvageable. Now, it's jumping out of reverse, a lot. You gotta leave it in a low gear to even get in reverse. That's my opinion. The transmission does not have much life left at all. We've had suspension work done to it. The hydraulic leaks right now. About every time I go mow the south end, we're about $50, $60 in hydraulic fluid. Just that's what we're.
Where's it leaking?
The H-blocks themselves.
Oh.
We've had repair work done to the fittings, but now it's the blocks themselves. That's part of the problem with hydraulics. What I found out is you fix one problem and you got another problem over here. So you're just back and forth.
Goes to the weakest link.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's a cylinder, which the Bush Hog runs on hydraulics too from the tractor, and there's hydraulic cylinders on the Bush Hog that's leaking that I can pretty much guarantee you when we repair that, it's gonna break here. The PTO switch itself is no longer functioning. That will have to be replaced. The AC has had work done here and there. It's still not at its adequate, what it should do. You're getting that John Deere, it's night and day difference in comparison.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, your cool vest has been helped in that secret. Thank you.
What he's telling you is you all need a new tractor.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm still going. Exhaust leak. There's exhaust leaks on the
You
tractor.
already got me convinced.
Well, if there's exhaust leaks on it, then that's a safety issue, and I think we should take it out of service right away. And
More heat. The gearboxes on the bush hog themselves, I've been putting grease in the gearboxes instead of gear oil. It's because they just pour the gear oil out. You're wasting money. You're better off putting grease in it and letting that work. So
For a while.
yeah, metal fatigue, like the axle, they're just first simply metal fatigue. It's just getting old and worn out. Welding on the deck, that's another part of the issue, is it's so much out of shape that we're hesitant of letting a new person or trying to train someone on it because of how complicated it is to operate. So it's, unfortunately, we've tried to get as much out of it as we can, and I believe we've done that.
I think you have,
But I think we're at that crossroads of where tractor and
yes.
bush hog is needed. So, thank you.
Need
Thank
to
you,
buy
Travis.
Travis a new tractor.
Glad you like the vest.
it sounds reasonable for what Mark was saying. If
Yeah.
we're getting more money from the DOT for the grass cutting, we use that
That's
to
what we're
replace
using
Yeah.
it
the
for, part of
equipment
the
for.
big part of it, so I think that's a reasonable exchange for that. Yep, DOT money. Yeah, I agree.
Need a motion to buy a new tractor?
Yeah, for
Bush
sure.
hog? Oh, no, there's no piecemeal in this.
No.
It's either all or none.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see them come in with, what is it you need?
For sure, and we've already started.
Okay.
And we did.
I think that's
some
what
of
we-
that. I'll give you a little bit of explanation. The bush hog that we currently have is rated to cut up to 3.5 inches. As you all know, mostly all we cut with it is grass. We catch an occasional twig or limb here or there. So the current bush hog we have is about $35,000. I did I checked on Bush Hog, Land Pride, and John Deere, and they make some that are a lot more user-friendly for what we're doing as far as cutting grass, which they go up to about 1.5 inches in cutting diameter. That drastically reduces the price. An 1.5 inch diameter bush hog is about $20,000 versus $35,000. And the tractor itself is going to be adequate enough to pull the bush hog. I spoke to several different, the dealers on the tractors, and they all recommended not getting the smallest tractor because you'll be overworking it, to step it up just a little bit, which cost-wise is not that much more, but let's get something with adequate horsepower so that we're not maximum RPMing the tractor trying to turn the bush hog. But all in all, I believe it was somewhere in the $70,000 to $80,000 range for the bush hog and the tractor combined. I don't know how we get paid from DOT though, so I don't know how that works out as far as, money coming in versus money going out, or if we could use, I don't know how much money is in the ARPA fund, if we could use ARPA fund money and replace it as we get paid from DOT. The accounting part is not my forte.
We'll have to
so
work
I'm
out
not
the
sure.
logistics part.
I'm not sure how that part works, but I do know that we make a lot more money from the DOT contract than we have in years past. So that was my reasoning on that part of it.
Jerome, I'm suggesting that you can get a consensus from us about replacing the tractor and the bush hog, but they need to come back with us with, here's what we want in
Dollars.
and,
What we
the
need, so-
equipment, and, right, and then we approve that.
Yeah. Do some research on where the money is too, so.
Yeah, and then you can come in and say, I can pull it out of here, I can pull it out of here.
I can get out of streets and roads and signs.
Yeah.
Have to take part of that.
Okay.
So we have a consensus to.
Consensus? Yes.
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Unanimous. Okay, comments, concerns from commissioners, I'm gonna begin. I attended the open house at the museum at the VIA Hall. And I was talking to Tanya and Drew Ann. And Drew Ann mentioned that Cecil Goodrich, his name, this building was dedicated. Clarence, excuse me. Not Cecil. He's the realtor. The name stretched all the way across the front of this building. When they added this room,
I remember.
they took the name down. Where did it go? Anyway, the conversation went, I think we need to rededicate this building. And I said, okay, y'all contact Jerome, and I'll follow up with Jerome and see what we can do. I just think it's an excellent idea, because he was the longest serving mayor.
Yeah.
So, you know, everybody involved, it just makes a good sense. On Saturday, or on Friday night, I got a call from the Republican Party. They were having a Trump motorcade down US 1, down Halifax, River Road, Canal, US 1. The request was, can we get traffic control? Well, I called Lieutenant Turney. He provided the traffic control, from what I understand, and 19 vehicles was in the parade.
I was out mowing the yard when they came by. That was a bunch of them. Yeah.
8/21/24 is the Oak Hill Historical Museum ribbon cutting. We all need to be there. We need to thank the volunteers.
Very much so.
Dana Greatrix, Tanya, Drew Ann, and there's so many more. I know Linda, Steve, I think all of us have been in there before the transformation. It is so much different, it is unbelievable.
It's museum.
Yes. So just a special thanks to everybody that was involved. A question on the US 1 accident that wiped out the library sign?
Spoke to Mark about that. That wasn't our sign. That was,
All the signs that were damaged belong to either DOT or the county, and they've both been notified.
Oh, okay.
Good news, yeah.
Very good. Oh, okay. I just want to add one other thing. This is political season, and there's political signs everywhere, including mine. I started putting mine out last week, and within 2 hours, one of them mysteriously disappeared. I put out another one on the Stillings property, next to Van Sunrise Park. Disappeared. Now, either my opponent wants my signs gone because his signs aren't disappearing that I know of, or somebody just likes collecting them because they're so nice.
Souvenirs, we love you.
Well, let me tell you, 2011, I paid under $2 a piece. What a shock it was that it was a hair under $5 per sign. It ain't cheap. You know, so my feeling is everybody respect everybody's signs. You know, the signs ain't gonna make anybody vote for you, I don't think. It's what you stand for and what you can do. That's it, to me. And hopefully, Leave my signs alone. I'm getting tired of putting them back. Next.
There was no TPO meeting in July. There will be another one in August, and I'll have a report for you for after that. But other than that, that's all I have.
Cool.
Nothing.
Mr. McGee?
Nothing.
Mr. Caggiano?
Nothing.
Ms. Linda?
Motion to go home.
Second?
Second.